You have failed this city.
Hello. Hello, bestie, and welcome to Season 1 of Arrow. This is the video to start it all. The dawn of the Arrowverse. My goal with this series of videos is to recap the entire Arrowverse, and that all starts here with Arrow Season 1. If you're unfamiliar with the Arrowverse, it is a collection of DC Comics-based superhero TV shows from the CW, and it started in 2012 with Arrow Season 1, and ended in 2023 with the final episode of The Flash Season 9. Yeah, they made 9 seasons of that. If you'd like to skip around to whatever episode you want, there are timestamps in the description that I've generously provided, so feel free to use them. Click something. Click them, I dare you. This is the murder board. Usually murder boards are made when you're trying to solve a murder case, and I would consider the Arrowverse itself a giant murder case. It murdered my sanity, and I'm trying to figure out how. You're looking at a future state of the board. This is the board from episode 13, so if you look too closely at the board, you may see spoilers. Might be hard to do considering the camera quality, but you get what you pay for, and I have no money. First off, the string. It connects characters together and shows what type of connection these characters have based on the color. Red strings are enemies, blue strings are friends or co-workers, pink strings are love interests, yellow connects family, green connects characters that are working together on a superhero project or a supervillain project, something of that nature. The colors behind the characters represent my personal opinions on them. Green characters are ones that I feel neutral about. Red characters are the ones that I dislike. Blue characters I think are cool. And orange characters are my favorite characters. The pink characters are a special class of characters that I call girl bosses. A girl boss, by my definition, is a character who drives the plot forward and never lets the plot drive them. These are the characters making all the power plays, the money moves, and the third thing, and they're looking good while doing it. Most of these characters are going to be women, but it is a gender-neutral term, and a couple of male characters do end up being girl bosses, so we are all-inclusive on this channel. Again, this is not that serious, so if you're like, oh, that's my favorite character, you have my favorite character, you hate my favorite character, I don't really hate him that much. At the end of the season, the character that I deem the most girl boss will get an award, and also the character that I think is my favorite for the whole season will get an award. Again, purely subjective. Another system that you need to know are the little tags that are on the characters. So anyone with a green triangle will know Oliver's secret identity. Anyone with a brown L will know about the list. And anyone with a red RIP is most likely dead. As the show progresses, I will add little notes around the characters, detailing important events or details or whatever. At the end of every single episode, I will zoom in on the board and show you all of the little details, if that's something you care about. This board is split into 3 sections. The big main section here, this is the present day in Starling City. This skinny little sliver over here, this is 5 years ago in the past on the island of Lian-Yu. And then this teeny tiny corner at the bottom is the slay station for all the characters who slay or have been slain. I have a rule where if a character gets one of the Girl Boss Awards or the favorite character crowns or any other random thing that I decide to add, cannot be taken off of the board no matter what show we're talking about. These are the Flash characters and Sin. How are there characters in the Slay Station if this is episode 1 of the first show of the entire Arrowverse? And to that, my answer is multiverse time travel. I'm actually from Earth 2. This is not the first time I'm making this video. I actually made this video 2 years ago. And that first video was rough. Oh my lord, there were editing mistakes all over it. I did not have lights. I did not have a laptop, so I had to edit everything on my phone, which meant that I had to break it up into chunks because my phone only has 64 gigabytes of storage, and the majority of that is taken up with those idle clicker apps, so I couldn't possibly delete those. This is the first video in the entire thing, so it has to be good. And I wasn't satisfied with the one that I made before, so I'm doing it again. Therefore, you're gonna see characters from the future with awards from the future. I can't take the crowns off because I taped them on and it would damage the pictures and that would make me cry. Enjoy. Happy knitting or whatever you're doing. I don't know. Episode 1. pilot. We open on an island. There's a man looking haggard as fuck running around on this island. This man is Oliver Queen, and through a dramatic voiceover, he reveals to us that he has been trapped, marooned, stranded on this island for the past 5 years of his life. This island is called Lian, and it's Mandarin for purgatory. Oliver is able to light a signal fire which alerts a nearby fisherman's boat that he is there, and they bring him back to his home of Starling City. What does he want to do when he gets home to Starling City? He wants to save the city from all the evildoers that are up in that bitch. Title screen. At the hospital, we meet Moira Queen, Oliver's mother. Moira, she is literally the best character in the show. So Moira Queen is talking to this doctor who has just examined Oliver, and he reveals to us that Oliver's body is covered in a lot of scars, a lot of bruises. His ribs were broken. He has fractures and things that have never properly healed. And the doctor says, Moira, I'd like you to prepare yourself. The Oliver they found might not be the Oliver you lost. Oliver and Moira arrive back at the mansion. Yes, the mansion. They are, in fact, billionaires, very rich, rolling in money. Woohoo! So relatable. Me and my friends are all millionaires. We meet a few new characters. First, the maid, Raisa. She is introduced in the pilot episode, and then she is never mentioned again until, season 6. We meet Oliver's sister, Thea. She's younger than Oliver. She's 17 years old when the show starts. And we also get to see Walter Steele. Oliver completely ignores Walter. We flash over to a law firm, and we meet one of our other characters, Laurel Lance. Girl boss, lawyer supreme, Laurel Lance. That is who she is. That is her official title on the wiki. Look it up. She is catching a glimpse of the news. Oliver Queen has just magically reappeared back in Starling City after everyone thought he was dead for 5 years because he was on a boat called the Queen's Gambit. That boat got caught in a storm. No bodies were found. Everyone thought that the people on this boat were all dead. That included Oliver, his father, and Laurel's sister, Sarah Lance. Tommy Merlin arrives at the Queen Mansion, and he goes up to Oliver and starts yapping about all the good things he missed while he was gone. Tommy is Oliver's best friend. Tommy is also a trust fund baby. He's also like a playboy. Before he got shipwrecked, Oliver's persona was like this playboy, doesn't give a fuck about anything, rich kid, you know the type. Everyone in this family, plus Tommy, is sat down at the table asking questions to Oliver about what happened to him. He is pretty shy with the details. He's not telling them. Oliver speaks to the maid in Russian, which shocks everyone because when did you learn Russian? Did you have a Russian tutor on this mysterious Chinese island? Oliver is mad at Moira and Walter because they are married, and Oliver is mad that Walter is replacing his father, Robert. The Queen family, before the crash, was Oliver, Thea, Moira, and Robert. So now Oliver's popping back up in this bitch, and he's mad that Moira remarried Walter because that's disrespectful to Robert or some shit. Oliver, grow up. Oliver is going to have flashbacks to his time on the island. So we'll have events happening in Starling City. That's where the main meat and potatoes happens. But then the side dishes happen on Lian 5 years ago. So we get a little bit of backstory and a lot of present story. And in this first flashback, he witnesses Sarah Lance fucking get pulled under and scream her ass and tits off. She's dead. Sarah's dead. There's no shot Sarah survived that, right? She's dead. Oliver has a few belongings that he brought back with him from Lian, its Mandarin for purgatory, including a crate, the island crate. In this crate, there will be a few relevant items that he pulls out throughout the show. First thing he whips out of this crate is a hosen, a large arrowhead-looking thing. I believe it's called a hosen, don't quote me on that. He gives this arrowhead to Thea. Thea's nickname is Speedy. Tommy wants to take Oliver out on the town, and he mentions that Thea got hot, but he didn't notice, OFC. Tommy wants to have a rager to celebrate his best bro reviving from the dead, brother. It's not every day your best friend comes back from the dead. It's not every day you have a Jesus moment. We gotta celebrate. # Jesus moment. before Oliver can go enjoy himself in the city, he wants to pay a little visit to Laurel Lance while she's at work, minding her own damn business. So that's what he does. He rolls up to the law firm. Law firm is called CNRI. And she is not happy to see him. She's like, fuck you. Fuck everything about you. I hate you. Stay out of my life. You got my sister killed. To heat up this tea a little bit more, when Oliver got into the shipwreck, he was dating Laurel. He was cheating on Laurel with her sister, and then they both died. After that wonderful exchange with Laurel, Oliver and Tommy get back in the car. They get ambushed by a group of thugs. These thugs tie up Tommy and Oliver, and they start questioning Oliver. They want to know if Robert survived the crash. They want to know if Robert told him anything suspicious. During this sequence, Oliver is having another memory of his time on the island. So, after the boat went down, Oliver, his father, and one other random guy all end up on a lifeboat together. Robert says, Oliver, I'm not the man you think I am. I didn't save our city. I failed it. And I wasn't the only one. Dun dun dun. Tommy is kind of knocked out, unconscious. He's not seeing this. So Oliver uses the opportunity to break out of his restraints and fuck up all 3 of these thugs. He kills 2 of them right off the bat, and then he chases down the 3rd one doing some epic parkour. And then before he snaps that last guy's neck, he says, "Nobody can know my secret." Was that really necessary, my guy? So when the police question Oliver and Tommy about what the fuck just happened there, Oliver lies, and he says, there was a man in a green hood who came in and just took out all those guys and saved us. Thank God for this mysterious man in the green hood. And one of the officers that are questioning Oliver and Tommy is Detective Quentin Lance, as in Laurel, Lance, Sarah, Lance. Oopsie daisy, Oliver killed his daughter. Quentin here hates Oliver. Lance hates Oliver so much. He is preying on his downfall. Oliver sees a headline about Adam Hunt, and Adam Hunt is this episode's bad guy of the week. Every episode, pretty much, is gonna introduce some random ass new side character who does some bad things, and Oliver is gonna go after him. Bonus points, the side character is usually connected to whatever the fuck Laurel is doing, just for extra drama. Oliver wants to go after Adam Hunt, because Adam Hunt is on the list. Oliver what? Oliver, you're scaring me. Moira introduces us to John Diggle. Dig, as they call him. John Diggle is Oliver's new personal bodyguard, because Moira does not want Oliver to get attacked by random thugs again, so she hires Mr. John Diggle. Dig here, he's ex-military, he's a very super serious kind of guy. Hard ass, he's seen things in the war. John Diggle here, he's not the type of guy that you can just ditch whenever the fuck you want. So of course, Oliver immediately ditches Diggle and runs off to some fuck-ass abandoned factory in the middle of the Glades. The Glades are like the poor section of the city. In the Glades, there's this abandoned Queen Industrial factory. While he's there, he starts renovating. It's an HGTV renovation special. He's out here knocking down walls, building shit, kicking shit, flipping shit, shitting on shit, doing all types of shit. And he's also doing a voiceover that reveals to us his true intentions. This is gonna be his base of operations for his vigilante activities. Oliver puts on his dumb little green hood. Now this green hood did come out of the island crate as well, yes, it is Lian Yu memorabilia. He puts this fuck-ass hood on, and he pays Adam Hunt a visit. He kills 3 of his guards. He could have probably just knocked him out. No, okay, straight to murder. That's fine. And then he threatens Adam Hunt. He's like, if you don't deposit $40 million into this bank account by midnight, I will come for you. Adam Hunt tells Detective Lance about the hood guy. Oliver's #Jesus moment party is going to be held at a club that just so happens to be right across the street from Adam Hunt's office. Oliver gets up on stage at his party and he gives a very emotional, very inspiring speech. "I've missed tequila!" Oliver has never seen the Twilight movies. Thea is there and she is in the middle of a drug deal. So Oliver swoops in, he busts up this drug deal, and he steals the drugs that Thea bought and throws them away. Laurel is also at this party and she speaks with Oliver. She apologizes for her outburst earlier and she says that she would like to give him a chance and reconnect with him. Oliver flips that Uno reverse card out of his back pocket and he's like, "You should stay away from me. Stay as far away from me as possible, Laurel Lance. I am bad news." Diggle is following Oliver around everywhere, and so in order for Oliver to get to Adam Hunt's building, he has to evade John Diggle, which he does pretty easily. So Oliver goes up to Adam Hunt's building. He kills 4 people on the way over to Adam Hunt, and then he shoots an arrow at Adam, but he misses, and the arrow hits into the wall, and then he zip lines back down over to the party. The police are there, and Detective Lance sees the hood guy zip on over down into this party, so they run over to Oliver's birthday bash, and they shut it down. Detective Lance rolls up, he confronts Tommy Merlin, and he's like, I knew some scum like you would be here. Did you roofie anyone special tonight?" Tommy just fucking smirks at him. Oliver is like, "Yo, detective, easy fix." And then he stands up on stage and he shouts to everyone, "I'll give out a $2 million reward to anyone who can find me a nut bar and a green hood." And the party rages on. Nobody gives a fuck. Tommy's connecting the dots. He's like, "Hey, Oliver, it's pretty strange how this hood guy saved you, and then also this hood guy attacked some guy right across the street from your party." And Oliver's like, "Hey, buddy, I wouldn't think about it too much, okay? Just be happy that you're alive. How about that?" Adam Hunt is throwing a hissy fit because he can't figure out how 40 million of his hard-earned dollars have just miraculously disappeared from his bank accounts. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Adam Hunt. Maybe it's because that arrow that got lodged into the wall that nobody removed, not even the police who saw it there, has some kind of electronic doodad on it that's sucking out all your money. Maybe that's how, Adam Hunt. Dumbass, he deserved that. Oliver is transferring the money that he's stealing from Hunt to the pockets of Hunt's victims, and then Oliver crosses Adam Hunt's name off of his magical list. So we get another lifeboat flashback. On the lifeboat, Robert is like, "Oliver, you need to right my wrongs." And then he shoots the other random guy that was there, and then he shoots himself, and then Oliver is the only guy left on the lifeboat because there was not enough food for all 3 of them, so Robert, executive decision, Oliver is the one that's surviving this. Tommy and Laurel have a moment where he comes up to her and is like, "Hey, I want to seriously date you. You know, we've been hooking up off and on every so often since your boyfriend fucking died, but I want to get serious with you." Yeah. And she's like, "No, you're a fuckboy. I know that. You know that. Everybody knows that. I have enough self-respect to stay the fuck away from you and not let you into my life so that you can fuck it up." Tommy's like, "Dinah Laurel Lance, I'll get you one day, girl." Through voiceover, Oliver tells us that the island changed him, and that there are many more names on his list, and he is just getting started. The final scene of this wonderful pilot is Miss Moira Queen going to speak to a mystery man, and she says that she's the one who hired the thugs to go after Oliver and see what he knows about Robert. She says that she's going to do something else in the future to find out what he knows, because they still don't know what he knows. Nothing screams girl boss more than having your own son tortured for info on your late husband. And that's why Moira Queen is Girl Boss Supreme, Mother of all Girl Bosses, and that is her official title on the wiki. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 9. The character with the most smart remarks was Tommy, he had 8. And the character with the most kills was Oliver, he killed 10 people. If you were curious about the totals for all of the characters, I have a Google document available with all of the charts for every character in the show that tallies the amount of dramatic speeches, smart remarks, dramatic pauses, vague threats, and kills committed by each of the characters, including the really random side characters. So if you were interested in that, you can click the link in the description. Episode 2, Honor Thy Father. The hood guy is going after some rando called Marcus Redman, and he hits him with this catchphrase, "You have failed this city." Epic catchphrase, 10 out of 10 catchphrase. Oliver returns to the Queen Mansion, and he watches Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Oliver has been legally dead for 5 years, and now that he's not actually dead, they need to go to court to make him legally alive again. So that's where they go. Oliver and the whole family take a girls' trip. At the courthouse, they have a run-in with Laurel. Laurel is working a case, and she is still mad at Oliver after that shit he said to her at the party. After becoming legally not dead, Oliver ditches Tommy and Diggle so that he can run back to his bootleg bat cave in the Glades and do some vigilante shit. Laurel Lance, lawyer supreme, struts into the courtroom and she gives a dramatic opening statement. Her client's name is Emily Nascenti. She is suing Martin Somers for having her father, Victor Nascenti, killed by the Triad. There is only one name that matters from that sentence, and it is Triad. Oliver voiceovers and says that Martin Somers is in fact on his father's list. The list is Robert's list. He kills 3 men and then hangs Martin Somers upside down and demands that he confesses in court. Title screen, Moira confronts Oliver and she's like, "Hey, why are you ditching your bodyguard? Is it because he's a shitty bodyguard? Do I need to get a new one?" And Oliver's like, no. Okay, listen, I've just been ditching Diggle to go see a girl. Okay, Mom, nothing to worry about. I won't ditch him anymore. Promise. Swear. Thea walks past. She's all dressed up. She's ready to go out to the club. And Oliver's like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "I'm going to get drunk." Oliver finally agrees to go to Queen Consolidated. Queen Consolidated is his family's big company. That's where they get their big bucks from. It's this fucking rectangular ass building that just fucking sits in the city. I do not like any of the architecture of any of these buildings. Specifically, I don't like the Queen Consolidated building because it's too rectangular. There's nothing here that sets it apart from any of the other buildings in the city. It's this big, stuffy, industrial, rectangular building, and I hate it. I hate it so much. Moira and Walter want Oliver to step up and become the CEO of Queen Consolidated and take his rightful place, because that's what Robert would have wanted. Oliver does not want to be the CEO of this company. He's got better things to do. He's got a list of people he has to go murder. How is he supposed to find time to do that and be the fucking CEO of Queen Consolidated? Of course Bro doesn't want this job, but he can't tell his mother that that's what he's doing with his free time. The current CEO is Walter. On the island, it's Oliver, he's chilling there. His father's corpse is also chilling there. There are birds, crows, I believe. They are picking at his dead father's flesh and eating it. But then he's like, well, fuck, I should probably bury this body. So he sets out to dig a hole and put his dad in it. Back at the law firm, Laurel is speaking with her client when her father, Detective Quentin Lance, struts in. "Hey, my sweet summer child. You are currently working on a very dangerous high-profile case. I am going to put you and everyone associated with this case under police custody because the fucking hood guy just attacked Martin Somers. So we can't have you also getting attacked." Going into protective custody in this universe is the equivalent of putting a giant target on your back and then running up and down the busiest streets of the city, practically screaming and crying that you would like to get attacked. Some white-haired girl boss, awesome sauce, slay queen lady shows up at the docks, and she wants to talk to Martin Somers. Oh my god, I didn't cut the strings off! Chen Na Wei. This woman, she has white hair. She's from China. She works for the Triad. She is not to be fucked with. She approaches Martin Somers, and she's like, "Hey, my guy, we gotta do something, because you can't confess in court. We should just kill the lawyer. How about that?" What do you think this white-haired woman who's from China's English name would be? What do you think it would be? Because if you thought China White, then you win. What kind of J.K. Rowling fucking Cho Chang name is China White? What is that shit? Okay, I don't understand how a person could be like, yes, Alright, that China White is canonically her name in the comics, and this is based on comics. It's comic accurate. It's comic accurate. Comic accurate up your asshole. They could have changed that. They could have changed that, but they didn't. There's so much shit that happens in this show that is not comic accurate. Thea and Oliver go to the graveyard to see Oliver's grave. So Oliver's grave is right next to Robert's grave, and Thea tells Oliver that she would come to his grave all the time, back when they thought he was dead, and she would just talk to the gravestone like a therapist, and she says that she felt closer to Oliver when he was dead. Oliver goes to Laurel's house. He brings ice cream as a peace offering, and they sit down and they eat ice cream and they chat together, and Oliver tells Laurel that he doesn't want to be the CEO of Queen Consolidated, and she's like, yeah, that tracks for you. You never really were good with responsibility, now were you? Laurel suggests that if simply telling Moira that he doesn't want to be the CEO is not enough, he should show her that he cannot be the CEO. It's like when Roderick tells Greg Heffley that if he doesn't want to, get told to do chores, he should just fucking suck at the chores so that nobody asks him to do it anymore. Oliver and Laurel, they're chatting. They seem to be mending their relationship. All of a sudden, China White breaks in to Laurel's apartment, and she starts trying to kill both of them. Diggle is there. He was out in the hallway. He comes in. He starts shooting. And in the chaos, Oliver grabs a butter knife, and he throws it at China White, and he hits her with it with pinpoint accuracy. And now China White gets away, and the cops show up. Quentin Lance thanks Diggle for saving Laurel's life, and then Diggle turns around to Oliver, and he's like, yo, you threw a fucking butter knife at her and hit her with it? Girl, how? And he's like, I don't know, I guess I just got lucky. And Diggle's not buying this shit. Oliver decides that because Sommers sent the Triad to attack Laurel, he needs to suit the fuck back up as the hood guy and go and just deal with Sommers himself. He goes to the docks, kills a bunch more people. China White is also there, and she and Oliver get into another boss battle. But then the cops show up, and they break up the boss battle. Before he runs away, he gives Detective Lance an arrow that contains a recording of Martin Sommers' testimony on it. Oliver shows up to some ribbon-cutting ceremony at Queen Consolidated, and he is drunk, and he is making a fool of himself. And this shows Moira that he's not in fact ready to be the CEO and should probably not be doing that. This will not be the only time that Oliver refuses to take his rightful place as somebody's heir. Martin Sommers gets arrested, and then Lance tells Laurel that his only mission right now in life is to take down that fucking vigilante Archer. He's gonna get his ass in cuffs, and he's gonna unmask that motherfucker. And that's all he wants. On an island flashback, Oliver's burying his father's body, and he discovers a tiny little book inside Robert's pocket. And this book is the book that contains the list in the future. When he opens the book on the island, all of the pages are blank, and he's like, there's also a strange symbol on the book, and that makes him go, Moira meets with the mystery man in the back of a car again. She tells Mystery Man that she knows for certain that Oliver has no idea that the yacht was sabotaged. I'm sorry, what, Moira? Moira, what? Moira, wait. Moira! So this episode ends with an island flashback. Young Oliver gets shot with an arrow by some dude wearing a green hood. The same green hood that he currently wears in the present. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 11. The character with the most smart remarks was a tie between Oliver and Laurel. They both had 8. And the character with the most kills was Oliver. He killed 12 people. Episode 3, The Lone Gunman. The bad guy of the week is some dude called James Holder. He is irrelevant because as soon as Oliver shows up to tell him that he's failed this city, some other guy snipes him from a rooftop across the street. The sniper also grazes Oliver's arm with a bullet. Title, Screeching. Oliver's back in the Arrow Cave. Yeah, that's what we're calling it. It's the Arrow Cave. He's stitching up his wound from the bullet, but the bullet is poisoned, and he starts feeling all loopy. So Oliver rushes over to his magical island crate and pulls out some magical island herbs that will surely cure this ailment, as well as every other ailment that exists. 5 years ago, Oliver was not doing so hot. He's just been shot in the chest by an arrow. The man who shot him with the arrow, this freaky guy, goes up to Oliver, pulls the arrow out of his chest, and then he falls to the ground. Thea has just broken into his store, and Moira is mad at her. She's like, no, girl, you can't break into stores. Why would you do that? Moira allows Thea to skip school after this, and Oliver is like, hey, Mom, you think that's the best way to parent her right now? And she is like, don't you tell me how to parent. The police are confused because there's arrows at the crime scene, but James Holder was shot with a bullet, and that's not the Archer's MO, okay? The hood guy doesn't use guns. Detective Lance thinks that it's somebody else. Oliver's in the arrow cave. He is testing his blood to see what poison was in there. Turns out it's a poison called curare, which is a rare and deadly poison. It's the killer's unique MO. Oliver is able to use this information to deduce that the shooter was none other than Deadshot. What would you do? Oliver decides that he's gonna go after Deadshot this week instead of somebody on the list. We get to see Deadshot all up close and personal. He is tattooing James Holder's name onto his chest, like he does with all of his victims. Also, Deadshot's got abs. Oliver's plan is he wants to turn Queen Industrial, that nasty ass place that he is hiding in the glades, he wants to turn that place into a club, to use the club as a cover for his vigilante activities. Tommy thinks this is a great idea. Tommy loves a club. And he's like, hey, we should go to Max Fuller's club and scope it out to, like, get some tips or whatever. And Oliver's like, ooh, I would love to go to Max Fuller's club, but I slept with his wife before they were married. And he still kind of hates me. So I'm not really sure how that would go if we go. But Tommy is insistent, and so they will be going to that club. Laurel has a work friend. Her name is Joanna. No! Oh my god, wait a minute. I didn't connect anybody. Dude, fucking L. Literally, what is this, amateur hour? I said I was gonna make this video better than the first one, and here I am, fucking everything up like always. Why do I suck? Anyways, Joanna has been in the first 2 episodes, but I didn't catch her name until the 3rd episode, so, there she is. She is Laurel's friend at work, also a lawyer. She suggests that Laurel and herself should go out clubbing, because she knows that Laurel is not over Oliver, and as her bestie, she needs to help Laurel get over her stupid ex. So they're going clubbing. Probably to the same club that Oliver and Tommy are going to. Because why? Why not? So Moira confronts Thea, and she's like, Thea, you're grounded. And Thea just goes, no. Oliver goes back to the scene of the crime. He does some parkour, and he tries to figure out where Deadshot was shooting from. He finds a bullet that, like, got caught in the side of a building, and he takes that. Oliver does some digging on this bullet, and he discovers that it has a connection to the Bratva. And he's like, oh, yay! He goes to the Bratva, where they're set up in Starling City, and he meets with this guy, Alexei Leonov. And he's like, sup, dude, I need you to help me. Turns out Oliver Queen here, he's a Bratva captain. Okay, Deadshot is still out here killing people, and the connection between this guy and the first guy is that both of those guys were trying to buy stock at the Unidac Industries stock auction. So Detective Lance puts these pieces together, and he goes to chat with Walter, because Walter is also trying to buy stock in Unidac Industries, and he's like, ooh, maybe there's a connection here. Maybe Walter is behind this. Walter, the evil mastermind. Does this man look like an evil mastermind to you? I certainly hope you said no. Every single one of our characters somehow ends up at Max Fuller's club at the exact same time on the exact same night. We got Oliver and Tommy, and Laurel and Joanna, and Thea. And Thea walks up to all of them, and she declares to Oliver that Laurel and Tommy have been hooking up ever since he died. Max Fuller shows up and he starts a fight with Oliver and Tommy. Laurel stops the fight and then they all leave. Back on the island, Oliver is trying to run away from this crazy lunatic who shot him. He runs into a net and gets swooped up into the air. At Big Belly Burger, we meet Carly. Oh no. Carly works at Big Belly Burger and she is Diggle's sister-in-law. Okay, this is about to get so messy. I hate the show so much for choosing to include Carly at all, because we didn't need this. We didn't need this. Oliver and Tommy make up. Oliver agrees that they're all adults, and Tommy and Laurel should be able to do whatever the fuck they want without having to worry about Oliver getting upset about it, which is very mature. Oliver gets a call from Alexei, who tells him that they got the name of Deadshot. His name, his real full legal name, is Floyd Lawton. Oliver also has Lawton's last known address, and he goes there, and Lawton gets away, and Oliver ends up finding a computer. This computer is full of bullet holes. So he goes to Queen Consolidated's IT department, and we meet computer girl boss Felicity Smoke. I love Felicity Smoke, and he gives her the bullet laptop, and she's like, why are there bullet holes in your laptop? And he says, well, I was in my coffee shop, I was drinking coffee, and I spilt a latte on it. My coffee shop's in a bad neighborhood. Thea and Moira make up. Thea agrees to be less of a little bitch. Moira's like, hey, do you want to come to the Unidac Industries stock auction with me and Walter? I would love to have you there. Felicity is like, hey Oliver, I recovered some things off of this laptop. I'm not really sure why the fuck you have all of this shit. There are blueprints to the place where the Unidac Industries stock auction is going to be held. Thea decides to go to the auction, which is great, because you know who else decided to show up to the auction? Dead hot, dead shot, Floyd Lawton. That's who. Riddle me this. Take the S out of Deadshot, and what are you left with? Among Dead Hot Deadshot's list of targets, Walter Steele is there, yes. So he is aiming his sniper rifle at a Walter Steele. It's got one of those sniper rifle red light targets on it, so everyone sees this, and Detective Lance is there, and he pushes Walter out of the way, so Walter does not get shot. Oliver is there, and he runs up the stairs, grabs his fuck-ass green hood from the trash can where he stashed it, and he puts it on, and then he goes to fight Lawton. He shoots Deadshot in the eye with an arrow. Deadshot fires back a bullet at Oliver. It misses Oliver, but it hits Diggle because Diggle was standing behind him. Back on the island again, the man who shot Oliver rescues him from the net he's found himself trapped in, and he takes Oliver back to a cave. This man does not seem to speak English. Oliver is forced to take Dig back to the Arrow Cave and reveal himself as the hood guy because Floyd Lawton's bullets are laced with curare, and the only thing that can cure curare is Oliver's magic herbs. These stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 4. The character with the most smart remarks was Thea, she had 6. And the character with the most kills was Deadshot, he killed 6 people. Oliver killed 3 people. Episode 4, An Innocent Man. Diggle does not like the fact that Oliver is the freaky hood guy. He's not a fan of that guy. He thinks that guy is a psychopath and a murderer, and he wants nothing to do with Oliver's dumbass crusade. Title screen. Laurel comes by the mansion to check on Oliver because he was at the shooting at that auction, and she just wanted to check in on him. And she gets mad at him for running away afterwards. Nobody knew where he went. She says that he needs to start caring more about his family, and Thea overhears this conversation. On the island, this guy, freaky dude, he is not speaking English. He keeps saying a word to Oliver over and over and over again, and bro does not understand what he's trying to say. The island man walks into the cave, and he gives Oliver a gift. He gives Oliver a bird in a cage, and he keeps repeating this word. And Oliver's like, fuck do you want me to do with this bird, bro? And he pulls a picture of Laurel out of his pocket. Oliver and Thea are watching a true crime documentary about Peter Declan, a man who allegedly murdered his wife in his baby's room. She's like, hey, if you want to show Laurel that you've changed, you have to, do something to show her that you've changed. Moira approaches Oliver with a new guy. This guy is Rob Scott. He's Oliver's new bodyguard because Diggle quit. And then Oliver's like, oh, did Diggle, like, happen to say anything weird to you before he left? And she's like, no. Oliver's listening in on the news, and he hears about a man called Jason Brodeur being involved in this Declan debacle. And he's like, OMG, Jason Brodeur. Oliver dons his green hood, and he has a conversation with Laurel. He's like, hello, Laurel, it's me, the vigilante. I need your help. The hood guy tells Laurel that he thinks that Peter Declan is innocent and did not kill his wife, and he wants Laurel to take the Declan case and prove that he's an innocent man. Laurel does go to talk to Peter Declan, who explains his side of the story. He says that he and his wife got into an argument because he wanted to be a whistleblower about some shit Jason Brodeur was doing, and then the next day, she was murdered. Walter is chilling at Queen Consolidated, and he's looking at the numbers, and he's like, OMG, Moira, $2.6 million is mysteriously missing from our accounts. And she's like, holy fucking shit-a-roni. Moira looks guilty, and this susses Walter out a little bit. Oliver goes back to try and reconvince Diggle to join his crusade. That's what he's calling it. It's his crusade, this vigilante shit. Diggle is like, no, I do not want to be a part of your shit. But then Oliver is like, but I killed the man who killed your brother. Apparently, John Diggle's dead brother, Andy Diggle, was killed by dead shot Floyd Lawton. And Oliver shot Floyd Lawton clean in the skull. So he is dead, meaning that Oliver killed the man who killed Diggle's brother, which means that Diggle should join Oliver's crusade as a thank you. Moira comes back to Walter, and she's like, I know where my mysterious missing millions went, actually. I know. It was an investment in a friend's startup, like 3 years ago. Oopsie daisy. Just never mentioned it. He does not believe her. He thinks there is more to the case of Moira's mysterious missing millions than she is letting on. The vigilante goes back to talk to Laurel. Laurel reveals that there's some other guy that's involved with this, so Oliver pays a visit to the other guy. He ties this man to the train tracks and forces him to tell him where the evidence is. Back on the island, dumbass Oliver Queen has just put 2 and 2 together that Island Man wants him to kill and eat the bird. The vigilante returns to Laurel with a file full of evidence that he got from torturing that man on the train tracks. And she's kind of like flirting with the vigilante. Girl, what are you doing? Girl, what is this? Oliver has been very easily ditching his new bodyguard, Rob Scott, because anyone named Scott is a slow, dumb bitch. Anyone named Scott, you're on my DNI. Laurel presents her new file of evidence to the judge at court. The judge is like, we can't really use this vigilante procured evidence in court. That's not going to hold up. Brodeur's lawyers, they're like, well shit, this fucking Laurel Lance bitch is kind of on to us, so we need to make some moves. We need to send someone into Iron Heights prison to kill Peter Declan. The vigilante and Laurel have a meeting on the rooftops, and she's like, listen, the court didn't accept the evidence. The only way that this is gonna work is if you can get me a signed confession from Jason Brodeur that he killed Camille Declan Peter's wife. The vigilante says, if that is what you need, Laurel Lance, Lawyer Supreme, I will get that for you. Walter is still sus about Moira's mysterious missing millions, so he enlists the help of Felicity Smoke. And she comes back with a bunch of shit that she Googled, and she discovers that Moira's mysterious missing millions went to an offshore account called Tempest. And the only thing that they did is purchase a warehouse on the edge of the city. So Walter decides to go scope that warehouse out. Laurel is at Iron Heights prison talking to Peter Declan, as lawyers often do. The guys that were hired to kill Peter Declan roll up to the prison. They start trying to kill Peter Declan. So the hood guy shows up at the prison. He fights all the dudes that are attacking Peter Declan. He saves him, whatnot. The vigilante kills 2 guys right in front of Laurel. This scares her a little bit. She's like, oh my god, the hot mysterious man that I've been meeting with for these past couple of days is actually kind of dangerous. Wait. Somehow, Oliver does not get seen and arrested during this scene because he showed up to the prison wearing a prison officer's uniform, but like, surely someone would have noticed something sus about a prison guard with a fucking bow and arrow killing guys. Surely that would have raised some red fucking flags, but no, he gets away, it's fine. No one even seemed to notice that he was there, except for Laurel. Laurel speaks with her father, and she tells him that one of Brodor's bodyguards confessed to killing Camille Declan, so yay, Peter is not in jail, and who gives a fuck. She also tells her father that she will no longer be associating with the vigilante because that man is bad news. On the island, Oliver finally mans up and kills that bird. Go Oliver. This is the first of many kills. Walter arrives to the Tempest warehouse. He comes face to face with the remains of the Queen's Gambit. Lance is looking over the footage from the Unidac Industries shooting, because the archer was there, and he believes that he was caught on film, so they might be able to figure out who he was. They're going through this footage, and they see Oliver grabbing the fuck-ass hood from the trash can right in front of a camera, and Quentin is like, you're done for now, Oliver Queen. On the island, turns out Broski up here can speak English. He could speak English the whole time, he was just being a little bitch, and it was very funny. He tells Oliver that that word he was repeating over and over means survive in Mandarin. This island man tells Oliver that he needs to stop staring at that goddamn photo of Laurel. Moira is up to mysterious mayhem again. I'm actually on fire with the alliteration. Moira and the mystery man are up to mischievous mayhem.
Moira
Meets with the mystery man in the back of a car, and oh my lord, we finally get to see who this guy is. We get a good look at his face. So, y'all, there is bro. Feast your eyes on that. I wouldn't blame you if you just zoomed right in on this photo and nothing else for the rest of the video. Mystery man here puts two and two together, and he says that he knows that the archer is targeting people on the list. Hang on! At the Queen Mansion, Diggle agrees to join Oliver's crusade. He's come to terms with everything, and he's like, someone's gotta keep you in check. After they shake hands, the police bust into the Queen Mansion, and they arrest Oliver Queen for suspicion of being the masked vigilante. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 8. The character with the most smart remarks was a tie between Oliver and Laurel. They both had 2. And the character with the most kills was Oliver. He killed 2 people. Episode 5, Damaged. The island man is showing Oliver how to hunt. He shoots a rabbit with a bow and arrow, and then he gives the bow to Oliver and tells him to try. He misses so bad. Oliver Queen sucks at archery. The island man sends Oliver out to go pick up the rabbit that he shot, and when he goes to get the rabbit, he gets captured by a bunch of soldiers who are running around on this island. Oliver, in Starling City, is determined to escape the cops. Title screen. So there's a lot of conflicting emotions going on right now. Quentin Lance is so happy. This is the best day of his goddamn life. All he wants is for Oliver Queen to finally go down for the crimes he's committed against the Lance family. He blames Oliver for Sarah's death, and him going to jail for being the fucking hood guy. That is the greatest news that he could have possibly gotten in his life. Everyone else is very upset by this. They're shocked. They're confused. They're like, Oliver, are you really the hood guy? And he's like, of course I am not the hood guy. Look at me. Oliver wants Laurel to be his lawyer. Oliver's bail is set at $15 million, and he is sent back to his house with an ankle bracelet. Oliver decides to throw a prison-themed party at the mansion. Oliver wants Diggle to go after some guy called Leo Mueller, bad guy of the week. Don't know what he's doing, probably an arms deal if I'm remembering correctly. He says the line, "You know us billionaire vigilantes, we love our toys." Who's the other billionaire vigilante? There's no shot. If Batman existed in this universe, we would have known about it. People would have been comparing the hood guy to Batman on the news. I'm the one who should know if Batman is running around the streets of Gotham currently in the present, and I don't know. Walter is still looking into this Tempest business. When he saw that boat, he only had more questions. So he asks Josiah, the head of his security, to do some digging for him. The prosecution for Oliver's little trial, they're willing to do an insanity plea. Oliver's like, do I look insane to you? I'm innocent! And he's like, I want to take a polygraph test. Meanwhile, on the island, Oliver is being taken to General Edward Fires. This guy, some evil British dude who captured him. He's been shot, he's been captured, and now, the worst form of torture of all, he has to listen to a British person speak. Fires here wants to know who is helping Oliver survive on this island. Oliver, for some reason, does not tell them about the island man. Fires sends in this man to torture Oliver. This dude is wearing a half-white, half-black mask, and he never takes it off. In the present, Oliver is getting questioned by Detective Lance during the polygraph test. Oliver confesses to murdering Sarah, but he says that he's not the hood guy. And it comes back true. Oliver goes to his prison party, and Diggle goes out wearing the green hood to stop an arms deal. Walter gets a call that his head of security is dead. Laurel is at the prison party. She goes up to Oliver and apologizes for her father's behavior because he was acting like a real big baby. During this conversation, Oliver's shirt is off, so Laurel gets an up-close and personal look at his sexy, sexy abs. They kiss, because of course they do. You can't resist the sexy, sexy abs. And then she runs off after that, realizing that that was like a terrible mistake. The island man shows up to save Oliver from Fire's camp. Walter confronts Moira about her having the remains of the Queen's Gambit in a fucking warehouse. And she's like, Walter, you should stay out of this. You keep your little nose as far away from this cheese as you possibly can, you little mouse, okay? Direct quote from the show. At the prison party, a waiter with a gun tries to kill Oliver, but Oliver is able to not get shot because he's Oliver and he's awesome. So all of the charges against Oliver are dropped because the hood guy was spotted running around while he was on house arrest. So he's not the hood guy. Moira confronts the mystery man. She is mad that he sent a fucking waiter in there to assassinate her son. He's like, my bad, bro. I thought he was the hood guy, but now that I know he's not the hood guy, I won't try to kill him again. Oops. Hey, oopsie daisy, can never be too careful. The island man leaves Oliver inside the cave alone with nothing but a little mystery bag. Laurel thinks that Oliver lied on the polygraph test, and now she doesn't trust him. We are right back. The circle is circling. Oliver goes out and he kills Mueller. The stats for this episode, the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 21. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver. He had 8. And the character with the most kills was Oliver. He killed 2 people. Episode 6. Legacies. There's a robbery going on. These robbers are dressed up like playing cards. The king, the queen, the jack, and the ace. Ace shoots one of the cops. Oliver is chatting to Diggle in the Arrow Cave, and he's explaining some things to Diggle. We learn that the island man's name is Yao Fei, and Oliver considers him like a teacher. He also explains the list to Diggle. He says that these are the people that have done the city the most harm. These are the people that we have to go after. Since you are now part of my crusade, you will be following my rules. Here is my list. Diggle is like, there's people out here committing bank robberies. Maybe we should go after those guys. The hood guy, his priority is the list. Title screen. Tommy wants to fly Laurel out to Coast City for a romantic getaway. Laurel would love that, I'm sure, but she cannot go because CNRI, they're kind of in a pickle. Their biggest donor just pulled funding, so she has to stay at work. Moira, Thea, and Oliver are having breakfast, and Moira says that she wants the two of them to join her at brunch tomorrow with Carter Bowen and his family. And they're like, fucking Carter Bowen. You love Carter Bowen. You wish Carter Bowen was your son. Diggle calls Oliver and tells him that Scott Morgan, a guy on his list and also on my DNI, is at the Starling General Hospital because he just tried to commit suicide. But psych, Diggle was lying. It's Stan Washington, one of the victims in the bank robbers' shootings. Oliver agrees just this once, to go after the robbers and put the list to the side for this episode. Meanwhile, there's some goofy little drama going on between Thea, Laurel, and Tommy. Tommy approaches Thea and asks for relationship advice because there's this mystery girl. Thea's like, ooh, well, you should just, make a grand romantic gesture. Thea clearly thinks that Tommy's crush is on her. She is not connecting the Laurel-related dots. Tommy shows up to CNRI, and he tells Laurel that he's gonna throw them a huge fundraiser and invite all of his rich friends, and they're gonna fundraise the shit out of CNRI. At Brunch with Carter Bowen, we learn just how great this guy is. He's written books, he's so very smart, so genius. Much knowledge to be learned from Carter Bowen. Oliver has to dip on brunch early to go fight the bank robbers. This pisses off everybody, especially Moira. The robbers get away. So then we see the robbers, and we learn that they're not just a group of people, they are a family, legitimately a family of people. And the dad, the king, he wants to rob just one more bank, and then they can be done. Oliver finds out some crucial information from Felicity. King is Derek Reston, and he used to work at the Queen Industrial Factory until it got shut down. And he's been out of work ever since. So, in a weird way, these robbers are Oliver's fault, when you think about it. On the island, Oliver is going through it. He's hallucinating his father. He's seeing visions of Robert Queen. And he finds a gun in the cave, and he tries to shoot himself with the gun. Oliver, in the present, goes to talk to Derek Reston and tries to convince him to stop bank robberies. He tries to hook him up with a job or just give him some money, but Derek Reston does not want handouts from Oliver Queen. Tommy is helping Laurel plan the fundraiser. She wants fucking carrot cake. Ew, gross. Tommy confesses his feelings to Laurel. He says that she is not like the other girls that he sleeps with. He actually cares about Laurel, and that's new for him. That is a new sensation for Thomas Merlin. At the CNRI fundraiser, Laurel and Tommy are chatting. She thanks him for throwing the fundraiser. Laurel walks away to dance with Carter Bowen. Tommy talks to Thea. Thea learns that the grand romantic gesture was for Laurel and not for her, and so now she's pissed off. Tommy is also pissed off because Laurel is dancing with Carter Bowen. Oliver tries to apologize to his mother for ditching brunch, but then he immediately has to ditch the party to go stop another bank robbery. The cops get there before the vigilante does, and so one of the cops shoots Derek Reston. On the island, turns out that the gun was also a hallucination, so Oliver did not kill himself. His dead father yells at him dramatically to right his wrongs. Thea got drunk. She and Tommy have another conversation, and she tells him that she kind of has feelings for him in a weird way, and he's like, ew, gross, you're like a sister to me. Diggle tells Oliver that Derek Reston's death is not his fault, actually, and also that cop Stan Washington, he's gonna be okay. On the island, Oliver is forced to tear out pages of the notebook he found in Robert's pocket and use it as firewood. When he throws the pages onto the fire, words appear on the page. Oliver apologizes to Moira for ditching her again. He says he's going to make more of an effort not to do that. They go to Big Belly Burger, and Moira Queen chows down on a burger with a fork and a knife. Girl, if that ain't queen shit. Stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Tommy. He had 9. The character with the most smart remarks was Laurel. She had 8. And the character with the most kills was a random cop. He killed 1 person. Raise your ya. Episode 7, Muse of Fire. Thea calls Oliver, and she reminds him that he's supposed to be meeting up with Moira for lunch. Moira is exiting a building. She's talking to some other businessman about a deal that she doesn't want to do, when suddenly, and without warning, there was a woman on a motorcycle with a gun. Some dude on a motorcycle comes out, rounds the bend, and shoots the guy that was standing next to Moira. Moira is pushed away from this event, and she ends up with a little concussion. Title screen. Instead of going after Moira and seeing if she was okay, Oliver decided to try and chase down the motorcyclist. Motorcyclist gets away, and then Thea is mad at Oliver for abandoning their mother in the streets. Detective Lance shows up, and he tells Oliver that Moira was not the target. The guy that she was with, Paul Capone Capani works for this dude, Frank Bertinelli. Frank Bertinelli, he's this mobster type guy. The motorcyclist is not a man, like everyone assumes they are. This motorcyclist is a woman. This woman has a murder board, and she's crossing off names of people that she's killed. So honestly, we're like kindred spirits. Thea wants to go out on the town and party like she usually does. Thea Queen, big party girl. But Moira, she's got that concussion, so she has to stay home and somebody's gotta be watching her. And since Oliver's vigilantism takes precedence to Thea's party lifestyle, Thea is the one who has to stay home and watch Moira. Tommy approaches Oliver and is like, hey man, me and Laurel are going on a date. And Oliver's like, that's cool. Tommy's like shook to his core that Oliver is okay with this. Oliver rolls up to Frank Bertinelli's mansion. And do you know who else is at Frank Bertinelli's mansion? Her. Moira and Thea are hanging out, having a mother-daughter bonding moment, and she tells Thea not to be so harsh on Oliver. I mean, bro did just come back from 5 years on Leanne Hewitt's Mandarin for Purgatory, so they really don't have any right to judge him for not being a normal person. Frank Bertinelli has another meeting that he needs to go to, so Oliver will have to discuss business with his daughter, Helena, the shooter. Detective Lance was doing detective work this whole time. You see, he put a listening device on Frank Bertinelli. He overhears a meeting that Frank has with the Triad, where they're discussing the shooter. The Triad says that they are not the ones who went after Paul Capani. There's 2 different dinner dates going on. Oliver and Helena are having a great time. They have a lot of things in common, actually, and their dinner date is going pretty well. Laurel and Tommy are also having a pretty good dinner date at the start, until the waiter shows up and he's like, yo, Tommy, your card declined. The waiter is played by an actor who's in the 100. He's Abby's little assistant in the 100. I always forget what his name is. Back to Oliver and Helena's date. According to her, they've both gone through a crucible, with Oliver's crucible being his 5 years on Leanne Hewitt's Mandarin for Purgatory, and her crucible being just life in general, I guess. Her fiance died. Oliver gets a call from Dig saying that there's another attack happening on Frank Bertinelli, so Vigilante suits up to go deal with that. During this fight, he has a run-in with the masked shooter. She's incapacitated, and Oliver is able to take her helmet off and reveal that that's Helena. Detective Lance knows that Oliver had a business dinner with Helena Bertinelli, so he approaches Oliver and he's like, hey, you need to steer clear of those Bertinelli bitches. They're bad news. Detective Lance will constantly flip-flop on his opinions on Oliver. Like, 1 minute he'll be like the worst guy in the world, and then the next minute he's like treating Oliver like a son. Tommy confronts his father about his card being declined. His father is in the middle of a fencing lesson. Just typical normal shit for this guy. He's like, Dad, give me my money back. And his dad whips off his fencing helmet to reveal his identity as the mystery man that Moira was meeting with. The mystery man. Moira's mystery man. Moira's mysterious I can't. I'm done with the alliteration. I'll stop trying. I was better at alliteration yesterday. His father, his name is Malcolm Merlin, and Malcolm says that he doesn't give a fuck if Tommy's upset about not having his money. He is not spending it in a responsible way. It's time that Tommy pulls himself up by his bootstraps and gets his life together without his trust fund. And Tommy's like, but it's my trust fund. Oliver follows Helena to the graveyard. She is at her fiance's grave. His name was Michael. And then suddenly, and without warning, the 2 of them get kidnapped by a bunch of mobsters and brought to some place, and they're tied up now. Do you know, I actually was in the ensemble for Little Shop of Horrors in my middle school play. Yeah, we did Little Shop of Horrors in middle school. And if you know what that show's about, you should be concerned, because it was concerning. There's not an ensemble in that show. We made one because there were simply too many kids that wanted to be in this show, and our fuck-ass director picked a show that only had like 5 main roles when there's like 50 kids that want to be in the drama club. Like, you can't do that. The math is not mathing. Why would you do that? I will hate you forever. Oliver and Helena are kidnapped. During the kidnapping, a lot of information about Helena is revealed. Her fiancé Michael was killed because he was digging up evidence that could be used to put Frank Bertinelli in jail. Turns out, the evidence that was being procured wasn't Michael's evidence, it was Helena's evidence. She was the one that wanted to take her father down. So she and Oliver break out of their chains, and they fight all of these mobsters. Oliver kills 2 of the 3 men, and Helena kills the last one, the main guy. And after he's dead, she says, "No one can know my secret." Tommy rolls up to Laurel's apartment, and he explains his financial situation. The situation being, he has no finances. And Laurel is like, "Listen, I don't like you because you're rich. I like you because you're you, so we will make this work." Walter has not been at the house ever since learning that Moira has been lying to him. He decides to come back because he can't stand to be away from her. He does love her and the family. Upon seeing how happy Moira and Walter are together, Thea tells Oliver that he needs to find somebody of his own that he can share his secrets with. Oliver takes her advice. He goes to see Helena, tells her his secret identity, and then the 2 of them get all real up close and personal with each other. Stats for this episode. The character with the most dramatic pauses was Helena. She had 16. The character with the most smart remarks was Oliver. He had 7. And the character with the most kills was a tie between Oliver and Helena. They both killed 2 people. Episode 8. Vendetta. Oliver and Helena are having a chat where she reveals that she wants to take down her father by killing all of the people that are closest to him so that he'll have no connections, and then once he's been stripped of everything that makes him like a big mobster guy, then she's gonna kill him too. And Oliver is like, "Yeah, that's a really cute plan. I like it, except for the we're gonna kill people part. Suddenly I don't like killing people." Suddenly Oliver doesn't want to kill anyone. Oliver takes Helena to Big Belly Burger, and he gives her a lecture about how justice is actually served. He says that he only kills people when it is absolutely necessary. Hey, Oliver, tell that to all the bodyguards that you could have just knocked out, but you killed them instead. Tell them that. Tell them that was necessary. Tell their families that was necessary. Those men, they were just trying to put food on the table. They were just trying to put money in the bank, and you come in and you just kill them because it was absolutely necessary. I hate inconsistency. Like, if you're gonna draw a line in the sand, you can't hop over to the other side whenever you want. Like, this ain't a game of hopscotch, Oliver. Diggle confronts Oliver about telling Helena that he's the vigilante. The secret is not Oliver's to just go and tell to whoever the fuck he wants, especially not a murderous bitch like Helena Bertinelli. Oliver says, "She's lost, Diggle. And whether she knows it or not, I can save her." Title screen. Oliver takes Helena to see Sarah's grave. He gives her a dramatic speech about why killing isn't always necessary, why it's okay for him to do it and why it's not okay for her to do it because he doesn't want her soul to be tainted or what the fuck ever. And then she agrees to try a different approach, and he takes her to the arrow cave. Oliver starts trying to teach Helena how to fire a bow and arrow. She sucks at bow and arrow. She much prefers her gun. Oliver tells Helena about the list of names, and she flips through it and sees a name that she recognizes. Diggle shows up, and he's very mad that Helena Bertinelli is farting around in the arrow cave. Oliver doesn't care what Diggle thinks, and now Diggle is mad at Oliver, and he storms out of there. The drama that is about to ensue for no fucking reason is crazy. So Tommy, notorious for having $0, tells Laurel that he just made reservations at the grand new fancy restaurant that is opening up called Table Salt. And Laurel's like, "Hey, remember you don't have money to do this. You know, you can get money by having a job. And Oliver is opening a club, and you like clubs, and you like Oliver. And so you could ask Oliver for a job at his new club that he's opening up." And Tommy kind of brushes this off. Felicity Smoke has not stopped digging into Tempest like Walter asked her to. She kept digging, and she brings this new stuff to Walter. Walter tells her that she needs to stop. Oliver and Helena are planning on going after Anthony Venza, the guy from the list. They're gonna do it with 0 casualties. Oliver proceeds to order Helena her very own vigilante costume from Wish.com with express shipping because it'll be here in the next 10 fucking seconds. Walter searches through Moira's bedroom and he finds a strange little notebook that contains a symbol on it. This symbol was shown to him by Felicity earlier in the office. So he takes it, but when he opens the book, all of the pages are blank. At Table Salt, the fancy restaurant, Laurel and Tommy have to wait a very long time because Tommy's reservation does not have priority. You know whose reservation does have priority? Oliver Queen's, because he's here on a date with Helena Bertinelli. Helena, not knowing the history between these 3 individuals, invites Tommy and Laurel to join them on their date. When Helena realizes that Laurel is Oliver's ex-girlfriend and now she's dating Oliver's best friend, she's like, this situation is a little bit messy. Even for me. Tommy gets upset because Laurel mentions the job, and Tommy never asked Oliver for a job. So he leaves the table all mad, and Laurel follows him. Laurel and Tommy fight, and Tommy expresses his insecurity about Oliver. He says that whenever things go wrong, Laurel's first thought is always to turn to Oliver, and he feels really insecure about that. And then he's like, we're done. I'm breaking up with you because I refuse to be second place to Oliver Queen. Oliver and Helena argue, and he's like, how was I supposed to know things were gonna get so weird? As if you have face blindness and forgot who those people were. Oliver. Helena is reasonably pissed off because Oliver has no common sense. Like, killer or not, this bitch has standards. So she kind of leaves him. Tommy goes to Laurel's apartment to apologize for his outburst. They unbreak up, and he confides in her that he doesn't really know how to navigate the world without his trust fund. This is all really hard for him. Oliver and Diggle finally have the conversation where Oliver comes to his senses and realizes that he cannot fix Helena Bertinelli. Helena goes back to the people they were fighting earlier, and she kills everyone, and she tells the last guy to report to China White and tell her that everything here is Frank Bertinelli's doing. Now that Walter has discovered this mysterious little book that might have a mysterious connection to Moira's mysterious missing millions, he calls Felicity back in to start digging again, but he tells her to be very extra super careful. Oliver finds the dead body of Zishan, the head of the Triad, and he declares war on Helena Bertinelli. Chen Na Wei goes after Frank Bertinelli because she thinks that he's responsible for killing all of her men, so they get into a fight. The hood guy stops Chen Na Wei from killing Frank Bertinelli. Helena corners her father, she shoots him in the leg, but then the vigilante shows up and he shoots the crossbow out of her hands. Helena and Oliver are now fighting hand to hand until Frank crawls over to the crossbow and then shoots Helena in the chest. Oliver takes her body away before the cops can get to the scene. Helena wakes up in the Arrow Cave. Oliver has played doctor on her, and he tells her that Frank Bertinelli is going to be in jail for the rest of his life. This does not bring any comfort to Helena, who wants him 6 feet in the ground. So she tells Oliver that she is going to kill her father, no matter what it takes, and if he tries to stop her, she will expose his true identity to the entire world. Felicity, using a UV light, has discovered that this blank book contains a list of names, and she shares this information with Walter. Oliver and Tommy make up with each other, and Oliver says, Tommy, my trust fund is your trust fund. And that's true friendship. And he also offers Tommy a job as his general manager at his new club, which Tommy accepts. Stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 30. The character with the most smart remarks was Helena. She had 7. And the character with the most kills was Chen Na Wei. She killed 4 people. Oliver did not kill anyone in this episode. Episode 9, New Year's End. There's a new archer in town, and he kills Adam Hunt. Oliver doesn't know that it's Christmas time because they didn't exactly have Christmas on Lian Yu, It's Mandarin for Purgatory. Speaking of Lian Yu, It's Mandarin for Purgatory, it's been a while since we've seen what's going on over there. So let's see. When we last left off Oliver, he was sad and hallucinating in a cave. The island man Yao Fei returns to the cave, and he has General Fires kidnapped. And he tells Oliver that General Fires is going to lead him to a plane that will get Oliver off this island. Felicity calls Walter and explains that Doug Miller, a Queen Consolidated employee, is on the list of names, and she's worried that the vigilante might go after him. Just then, there's a news report that the vigilante has murdered Adam Hunt. Detective Lance is not so easily fooled by this copycat archer because the arrows that killed Adam Hunt were black and the arrows that the hood guy uses are always green. Title screen. Oliver realizes that he's kind of fucked right now in the vigilante department. He sends Detective Lance a hood phone so that he can call him. Walter tells Doug Miller to be careful because the archer might be coming for him. So Oliver is all up in the Christmas spirit because he hasn't Christmased in 5 years. So he's like, hey family, I think we should throw a big party. And the family's like, Oliver, you know, ever since you and Dad fucking died, we don't really celebrate Christmas. We just kind of skip that. On the island, Fires tells Oliver that Lian Yu, Mandarin for Purgatory, is a prison island. And Yao Fei is one of those prisoners that belongs on the island. He's very dangerous. Malcolm confronts Moira about Walter knowing about the list, and he tells her that if she doesn't get Walter under control, he will deal with the problem himself. The other archer goes after another guy called Nelson Ravitch. This guy was attacked earlier by the vigilante, but now he's dead because the other archer killed him, because that's what the other archer does. Lance and the commissioner are talking. The commissioner doesn't want people to worry about two crazy archers. They should not tell the people. He tells Detective Lance that he is no longer on the archer case because Lance is getting a little bit too personally attached to this case. Oliver has one of the other archer's black arrows, and she gives it to Felicity and asks her to try and figure out where it was made. Oliver wishes Felicity Merry Christmas, and she tells him that she's Jewish. Tommy shows up to Laurel's apartment. Lance is there. He's not happy that Tommy and Laurel are dating because he does not like Tommy Merlin. Tommy gives Laurel a Christmas gift. It's a very cute, actually thoughtful gift, and he invites Laurel to come to Oliver's Christmas party with him. Felicity is able to get an address for these arrows, so Oliver goes there, but the whole thing was a trap set by the other archer, and Oliver barely escapes. So, at Oliver's Christmas extravaganza party, Walter and Moira are having a chat, and she agrees to tell him absolutely everything after the party. Diggle informs Oliver that the other archer has just taken hostages, and he will kill one of the hostages every hour until the hood guy reveals himself. So back on the island, turns out there's no plane. General Fires led them into a trap, and now he has captured Yao Fei. Oliver dresses up as the vigilante, and he goes to face the other archer. The other archer, he's highly skilled, highly trained. He's better at combat than Oliver is. He can anticipate every single one of his moves, and he shoots 3 arrows into Oliver's back before he gets away. Diggle shows up, and he's able to save Oliver. So Diggle brings Oliver to the hospital. The whole family is there. They come up with some dumb excuse for why Oliver has these injuries. They spend Christmas in the hospital. The other archer unmasks himself. Malcolm Merlin. How mysterious. The mystery man Malcolm Merlin is actually the murderous maniac. The alliteration is coming back to me. Malcolm has Walter kidnapped by Moira's request. And then he tells Moira that whatever it is that they're planning, it's going to kill hundreds of innocent people. And he's perfectly okay with that. So in the hospital, Oliver tells Diggle that he learned from the other archer that his father was not the one who compiled the list. It was written by somebody else, and they need to figure out who it was. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 36. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver. He had 11. And the character with the most kills was Malcolm. He killed 2 people. Oliver killed no one. Episode 10, Burned. There was a fire, and as usual when there's a fire, the fire department shows up to put it out. Among the firefighters is an evil firefighter, and he douses one of the other firefighters in kerosene or something, and then pushes him into the flames. Oliver is off his vigilante game, okay? His major defeat against the other archer has killed his confidence. It's crushed. He's on the floor. He cannot shoot at a simple target. It's been about 6 weeks since the Christmas party when Walter got kidnapped, and there's no proof of life, there's no ransom, so they can only assume that Walter is dead. Diggle asks Oliver when he's going to start crossing off names again, and Oliver says that he can't go back out into the field because his family needs him right now. On the island where we last left off, Yao Fei had just been captured by Fires and the Two-Tone Mask Man, and Oliver is now running for his life. Title screen. At CNRI, Laurel and Joanna are having a regular day when Detective Lance rolls up and informs Joanna that her brother Danny, the firefighter, died. Oliver and Thea are moping around the house. They're watching the news and they see a story about how the vigilante hasn't been seen in many, many weeks. The news reporter says that in the 4 months the vigilante was active, crime rates in the city were lower. Tommy and Laurel are having a discussion where he wants a drawer at her apartment, but she's not sure they're ready for that yet. And then Joanna shows up and she's like, Laurel, I know that my brother was murdered. She claims that her brother Danny was doused with turpentine, and that's why he burnt up so bad in the fire. Laurel tells this to her father, but Detective Lance says there's nothing he can do about it. So Laurel decides to take it and put it in her hands, and she steals Lance's vigilante phone, and she calls the vigilante. The hood guy visits Laurel, and she tells him that she thinks there's somebody killing firemen, and he decides that he's gonna go take a look at that for her. Now, despite promising Laurel that he would look into this fireman thing, Oliver tries to pawn it off on Diggle. Tommy asks Oliver if they can throw a fundraiser at their new club. And the club is still under construction, but he wants to throw a fundraiser for the firemen anyway. It'll be good publicity for the club, and it'll also be good for the firemen. Lance confronts Laurel about stealing the vigilante phone, and she's like, I'm so sorry, Daddy, but I can't give it back to you because the vigilante actually took it from me. So sorry. Ned Foster, the COO of Queen Consolidated, wants Moira Queen to step up and take Walter's place as CEO because stocks are plummeting. They need a CEO. Moira doesn't want to do that because to her, if she accepts the role of CEO, it kind of solidifies that Walter is never coming back. On the island, dumbass Oliver has no survival skills or know-how, so he starts a fire, but then realizes that by starting a fire it could draw people to him, so he immediately stomps the fire out. And then he runs to hide behind a tree because there are soldiers after him. Diggle convinces Oliver to suit up and try and help with an evil fireman case. So Oliver suits up, he gets there, but it's too late. He watches a poor innocent fireman get shoved off the side of a building and fall to a fiery death. On the island, past Oliver gets caught by the soldier and ends up getting pushed into the river. The hood guy calls Laurel and tells her everything he knows. He knows the evil fireman has a firefly tattoo. Laurel confronts the chief of the firemen. She's like, hey, there's a murderous fireman out here. He's got a firefly tattoo. That firefly tattoo connects him to a specific fireman company, and I know that you're connected to that as well, so tell me all of the details. The fire chief doesn't want to talk about it because all of the dudes with the firefly tattoo had a tragic incident where they went to put out a fire at the Nodell Tower. 6 of those Firefly firemen died in the Nodell Tower accident. On the island, Oliver is alive. He wakes up in the river. So, Oliver and Diggle are in the Arrow Cave and they're discussing Garfield Linz. Garfield Linz is one of the firefighters who supposedly died in the Nodell Tower. However, they were never able to ID his body, so he very well could be alive and killing all these firemen. Diggle's like, hey Oliver, time for your therapy session. Oliver admits that now that he's back in Starling City with his family, he realizes that if he dies in a fight, his family will lose him, and he doesn't want to cause his family pain if he dies in a fight. Diggle says that having a family, that actually gives him strength. At the fundraiser, Laurel and Tommy are discussing Drawergate when Oliver shows up. He steals Laurel away and they go back to talk to the fire chief again. The fire chief reveals that he made a call not to go back into the Nodell Tower to save Garfield Linz, and it is his fault that Garfield died because he was calling for backup. Oliver's like, hey, Garfield Linz, he's alive and he's probably coming to kill you. And he is coming to kill him. He is right here at this fundraiser, ready to light the whole place ablaze. Oliver suits up as the vigilante and confronts Garfield Linz, the evil firefighter. Linz tells the fire chief his entire dramatic origin story, how he was a victim in the burn unit for months. Despite him having a very identifiable firefly tattoo, nobody identified him. The vigilante stops Garfield Lynns from burning the fire chief to a crisp, but Garfield's like, hey, it's too late for me, and then he walks into the fire and dies. Moira is out of her depression era, and she is ready to gaslight gatekeep girl boss as the new CEO of Queen Consolidated. Yes, we love a strong woman in business. Joanna and Laurel have a final conversation because Joanna needs to leave. This whole situation is a lot for her and she needs to get out of the city. Lance also shows up to CNRI to talk to Laurel. They have a heartfelt little chat, and during this chat, he secretly bugs the vigilante phone. Back on the island, Oliver wakes up in the river, but the soldier that fell in with him, dead. So he takes the soldier's clothes and roots through all of his shit. So back in the present, Oliver is back on his game, and he tells Diggle that he is ready to get back out there and start fighting again. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 30. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver, he had 30. And the character with the most kills was Garfield Lynns. He killed 3 people, and Oliver killed 1 person. Episode 11, Trust but Verify. We open with a robbery. It ends with 3 masked men killing the 2 drivers and stealing whatever was in the trunk. Thea's 18th birthday is right around the corner, and she wants a car. Oliver and Diggle chat about the robberies that are going on, and Oliver suspects Ted Gaynor. Ted Gaynor is some guy that's on his list. Diggle is like, no, I know Ted Gaynor, and it's not him. Apparently, Ted Gaynor was one of Diggle's commanding officers from back when he was in Afghanistan. On the island, Oliver dresses up like a soldier, he's got the map, and he's got a rifle, and he goes to Fire's camp. And then he somehow gets himself on a go-kart with a couple of other soldiers and fires himself, and they will be taking him to Yalfei. Malcolm calls his son, and he says that he would really appreciate it if Tommy could come to a dinner that he's having because he'd like to make amends. Oliver suits up as the vigilante, and he wants to have a chat with Ted Gaynor, but Diggle stops him. So Diggle and Gaynor get to talking, and Ted Gaynor offers him a job. Diggle asks why the hood guy would be after him, and Gaynor shrugs his shoulders. Oliver and Diggle get into a fight, and Diggle's like, what the fucking hell is the list anyway? And Oliver's like, I discovered a message my father left me years ago that explains what the list is. And trust me, all of the people on the list are the worst of the worst. But Diggle is not having this, and he says that he's going to take the job with Gaynor in order to prove his innocence. It's now Thea's 18th birthday, and she is in the car with Moira. They are ready to hit the town for a little girl's trip, when Moira suddenly, and without warning, gets a call from Malcolm, demanding her presence because something serious is happening. Laurel and Tommy are talking, and she suggests that he should go to Malcolm Merlin's dinner date. Tommy's like, no, listen, Laurel, you don't know my father the way that I know him, okay? He's not a good guy. He's got some kind of ulterior motive. And Laurel's like, yeah, he wants a chance to reconnect with you because he's your father. Laurel, shut the fuck up. Malcolm and Moira meet, and they discuss a man called Carl Ballard. Carl Ballard is trying to gentrify the Glades, and according to Malcolm, that's a bad thing. He tells Moira that she needs to take care of this issue. Moira says that she will, in return for proof of life for Walter. Malcolm puts his hand on Moira's shoulder in a cute and comforting way, and Thea sees this and immediately assumes that Moira is having an affair with Malcolm Merlin. Oliver is minding his own business in his bedroom, trying to hack into Black Hawk Security's system. Thea barges in and she's like, Ollie, Mom is hooking up with Malcolm Merlin. This is a major problem. Oliver's like, Thea, you're imagining that. There's no possible way that that happened. And she's like, no, Ollie, you don't understand. This has happened before. Thea insinuates that Moira might have cheated on Robert before he died. Oliver immediately tattles on Thea. He goes to Moira and he's like, hey, sweet sister thinks that you are having an affair with Mr. Malcolm Merlin. Have anything to say about that? And Moira actually tells a little bit of the truth for once. Give her a round of applause, because this is so brave. Moira admits that she did hook up with Malcolm, but it was way in the past. It was many years ago, and she only did it because she found out that Robert was cheating on her. It's cheatception, guys. Who's the real villain here? Robert Queen, that's who. The only reason that she's meeting with Malcolm Merlin in the present is because she needs tips from him on how to be a CEO. On the island, Oliver's covert mission to infiltrate Fire's camp goes south really fast. He gets made by Fires and then locked up in a cage. Tommy agrees to go to dinner with Malcolm as long as Laurel comes with him. So the 3 of them are at dinner, and they bring up Rebecca. Rebecca is Malcolm's wife, who was murdered. Oliver can't crack Black Hawk Security's code, so he takes it to Felicity. Malcolm finally reveals his true intentions about why he gathered his son here with us today on this day. He says that he's planning on tearing down Rebecca's free clinic in the Glades, and he wants Tommy to sign off on the paper, because they can't tear it down unless Tommy signs this paper. He says, "You haven't changed, and you never will. It's about time I learned that and stopped letting you disappoint me." Dude, I'm living vicariously through Tommy Merlin. Felicity has successfully cracked Black Hawk Security, and she discovers that they're robbing armored cars. And she's like, hey, maybe we should tell the police about this. And he's like, no, I got it. Oliver goes to break up the heist, but it doesn't work. He ends up shooting one of the guys, but he gets away. At Thea's 18th birthday party, Oliver and Diggle chat, and Diggle's like, hey, I don't think Ted Gaynor is behind these evil doings. I think it's one of the guys that's working with him who I don't trust. And Oliver's like, yeah, cool, whatever. So Diggle heads out to go talk to Gaynor again. We flash over to what Thea's doing. She's chatting with her friends. Her friends give her this hot new drug, Vertigo. And she's like, ooh, sounds like fun. So she goes upstairs to try and hide her drugs in her room before her no-fun brother can see her. On her way up the stairs, she catches a glimpse at a conversation between Malcolm and Moira. Malcolm is showing Moira proof of Walter's life, and she's like, oh my god. And then he's like, Moira, I always keep my word. You can trust me. And she's like, what is it that they always say? Trust but verify. And he goes, ha 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 ha. And he doesn't do that. And then he puts his hand on Moira's shoulder, and Thea flips the fuck out. And you did it at my birthday dinner, Mom. She pops that Vertigo, gets into her new car, and drives away. At Black Hawk Security, Diggle discovers that Oliver was right all along, and Ted Gaynor is a bad guy, and he is behind all these robberies. Ted then kidnaps Carly, his sister-in-law. Ex-sister-in-law? Whatever. He kidnaps Carly. Under duress, Diggle helps Ted Gaynor and his fellow friends commit a robbery. Some shit goes awry during the robbery. Carly's running for her life. Ted is running after her, and Diggle is running after Ted. And Diggle is like, I want to kill you, you son of a bitch. But it's an arrow that lands in Ted Gaynor's chest, and not a bullet, because the vigilante is there. Thea, high on Vertigo, is driving down the road, and she crashes her car, so Thea's in the hospital. Moira and Oliver show up to see her. She's mostly okay, but she is not happy to see Moira. She wants that woman away from her. Tommy and Laurel are chatting about his father, and he says, no, Laurel, you don't get it. Malcolm doesn't care about anyone but himself. And while he says that line, we get a shot of Malcolm Merlin. And he's, like, looking at a picture of his family, but then the camera, like, focuses so that it looks like he's looking at his own reflection in the, oh my god, it's a great shot. Beautiful. Cinema. Wonderful artistry. Diggle apologizes for not trusting Oliver about Gaynor, and then Diggle crosses Gaynor's name off of the list. Thea gets discharged from the hospital, but it's not all peaches and cream yet, because the cops show up to arrest her, because there's Vertigo in her system. On the island, Oliver's trapped in a cage, but Yao Fei is let out of the cage, and it appears that Yao Fei is now working for Fires. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 26. The character with the most smart remarks was a tie between Oliver and Diggle. They both had 6. And the character with the most kills was Ted Gaynor. He killed 2 people. Oliver killed 1 person. Episode 12. Vertigo. So this episode starts with Oliver tracking down the drug dealers that are selling Vertigo. He's been doing this for a while, but none of them are able to give him the name of the guy who makes Vertigo. Until now. This guy knows that the guy that makes Vertigo is called the Count. Thea is having a hearing because she is about to be sentenced to jail for doing Vertigo. The judge refuses a plea argument because they want to use Thea as an example. Because if the people see that Thea Queen did Vertigo and she was sentenced to jail, then what's going to happen to them? Those lowlifes with no fancy lawyers. Oliver is like, hey, maybe Thea doesn't have to be the example. On the island, Oliver's like, hey, Yao Fei, can you please release me? Pretty please. And Yao Fei does not release him. Title screen. Oliver goes to the police because he wants to help track down the Count. When he's at the police station, he meets McKenna Hall. Now, McKenna is an ex-party girl turned detective, and she and Oliver go way back. But she tells Oliver not to get involved. The Count's a freaky guy. He does freaky things, he talks in a freaky way, he's a freaky little freakster. He kills the Vertigo pusher who ratted him out to the hood guy by injecting Vertigo into his neck. Oliver asks Laurel if she can do anything to help Thea. So Laurel goes to her father, and he says there's nothing he can do. And Laurel's like, but doesn't Thea remind you of Sarah? Just a little bit. And then he's like, okay, fine, I'll make some calls. Oliver and Diggle go to the Bratva garage because they need some info on the Count and they gotta get it in dubious ways. Oliver's like, hey Diggle, whatever I do in there, just play along, alright? Don't worry about it. So Oliver asks Alexei to arrange a meeting with the Count. And he's like, okay, cool, I will do that, but I need you to do something for me first. And he tells Oliver to kill some random guy. So Oliver does some weird jujitsu and kills him. On the island, Oliver is released from his cage and put into a fighting ring to be fighting against Yao Fei. Turns out, the guy that Oliver killed, he's not actually dead. He just did some freaky ass move that makes it look like people are dead, but then you can resuscitate them, so it's fine. Oliver and Laurel sit down with Thea. They explain to her that her choices are life in prison or 500 hours of community service with Laurel at CNRI. Thea is like, I don't want to be your ex-girlfriend's office monkey, Oliver. I will take jail. Thank you. Oliver can sense that Thea is still a little bit mad at Moira about the whole cheating ordeal. So he reveals to her that Moira wasn't the cheater. It was Robert. Thea doesn't believe him, and Moira overhears this conversation, and she gets mad at Oliver because he promised her that he wouldn't tell Thea. Oliver and Diggle head to the drug deal that they set up with the Count. He says that 56 people died in order for him to perfect Vertigo, and then the cops bust up the drug deal, including Detective Lance and McKenna. Oliver runs after the Count, but he gets injected with Vertigo, and then he passes out. Diggle brings Oliver back to the Arrow Cave, and he gives him some of those magical island herbs. On the island, Yao Fei strangles Oliver to death. Oliver wakes up from his Vertigo overdose, but he's still a little loopy and should definitely not be going to fight the Count. At the Queen Mansion, Oliver has a run-in with Lance and McKenna, and he explains to them that the drug deal was just a setup so that he could get eyes on the Count and help the sketch artists out at the police station. Thea, Oliver, and Moira are having a discussion, and Moira apologizes for not being honest with them about Robert's infidelity, but she says that she was just trying to preserve his memory, and they hug it out. Yao Fei tosses Oliver's lifeless body over a waterfall. Oliver and Diggle go to Queen Consolidated, and they give the syringe of Vertigo to Felicity and ask her to test it to find out what's in it. And he's like, oh, it's an energy drink, don't worry about it. I just ran out of sports bottles. That's why it's in a syringe. This is totally normal shit that I do all of the time, Felicity. You should know this by now. They use the info from Felicity in order to track down where the Count's hideout is. The hood guy, despite still being a little disoriented, goes to the hideout and attempts to take down the Count. During this fight, the hood guy injects Count Vertigo with Vertigo. The cops arrive and they arrest the Count. Thea changed her mind about jail and has decided that 500 hours of community service, that's a lot better actually, so she'll take the job. The Count has gone psycho crazy because no one has ever injected that much Vertigo and survived. On the island, Oliver wakes up in the river and he discovers that Yao Fei left him a map with a big red X on it. Felicity and Oliver meet at Big Belly Burger and she shows him the list that Walter gave to her, and she says that she thinks that this list got Walter killed. Oliver pretends like he's never seen it ever in his life. So the stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 52. The character with the most smart remarks was a tie between Oliver and Diggle, they both had 6. And the character with the most kills was the Count, he killed 57 people. Episode 13, Betrayal. This is one of my favorite episodes in the entire show. Like, I love this episode so much. There's a lot of banger episodes coming up. Cyrus Vance has just been released from prison. Him and this woman named Vivian, she's blonde, they go to his lawyer's house. He murders his lawyer and then starts living in his house. Diggle and Oliver are kind of butting heads this week because Diggle thinks that Moira is more involved with the list than she's letting on. And Oliver is like, my sweet mother Moira would never. Okay, she's a good woman. She's not involved. Back on the island, Oliver was given a map by Yao Fei with a big X on it that says survive. When he gets there, he finds the wreckage of a plane. and he goes inside. And when he goes inside this plane wreckage, he gets attacked by an Australian man. Oliver tells this Australian man that Yao Fei told him to come here. At the police station, we meet our second Frank of the show, Lieutenant Frank Pike. Frank Pike tells Lance that he cannot be on the vigilante case anymore. He's being reassigned. Frank here doesn't think that going after the vigilante is necessary. The vigilante is actively helping the police department. Sure, maybe he's killing some people in the process, but they don't have to, devote all of their resources to going after the vigilante. They have bigger issues than the Archer at the moment. Oliver goes to Sweet Mother Moira, and he's like, hey, what do you know about the list? Found this devious list. I know Walter knew about it. What do you know? Moira explains that little list is just a list of people that owe Robert favors, and she didn't know it was that long, and she doesn't know anything about it besides that. She does tell Oliver that if this list really did get Walter in trouble, then he should probably stop looking into it, because she doesn't want anything to happen to her sweet son. At CNRI, Laurel Lance learns that Cyrus Vance was just released from Iron Heights prison on a technicality. Now, this Cyrus Vance motherfucker, he's pretty evil. He killed 52 people during his big crime spree, and you can add 1 to that for the lawyer that he murdered. Laurel gets a call from Tommy. He wants her to come join him at a cake tasting or some shit, but she declines because she needs to focus on this Vance case, because everyone at CNRI wants to lock him back up. Oliver returns to Diggle and presents his evidence that Mother Moira is not nefarious, and Diggle is like, yeah, I still don't believe you, bruv, so I'm going to stalk your mother for a bit, okay? How about that? At the police station, Lance is having a chat with Kelton the cop hacker, and Kelton informs Quentin that Laurel has just called the hood guy on that phone. Title screen. Laurel called the vigilante to ask him to go look into Cyrus Vance, so he rolls up to Cyrus Vance's little hideout, and he kills some people on the way in, and then shoots a listening arrow towards Vance. Vance sees the arrow, he grabs it, and he's like, I think that I'm gonna go after the hood. So Kelton the cop hacker overhears a conversation between Laurel and the hood where they plan to meet up. So Lance is like, assemble the SWAT team, we are going there. In order to make it to the vigilante meeting, Laurel has to cancel on Tommy. Vigilante and Laurel meet on top of a rooftop somewhere. He gives her all the information that he got on Vance, and then they get ambushed by the police. The hood guy jumps off the roof, and now Laurel is pissed off. Laurel is mad at her father because he just used her as bait, and Lance is like, I don't care, give me back the vigilante phone. Gimme. Laurel goes to Tommy and she starts ranting about the absolutely rancid date she just had. Tommy gets a little angry because he didn't know that Laurel had a connection to the vigilante. He didn't know that she flaked on him to go talk to some dangerous criminal. Cyrus Vance discovers that Laurel Lance is connected to the vigilante. Tommy goes to Oliver to rant about Laurel. He's mad because she was talking to the vigilante behind his back. Tommy is mostly mad because Laurel was keeping a secret from him. It's not even the nature of the secret, it's just the fact that it was a secret. So Oliver, who's keeping the biggest secret you could possibly keep, tells him to just give Laurel another chance. Go hear her out, bro. So back on the island, this Australian guy gives Oliver a sword and wants him to, fight him. But Oliver, he doesn't know how to fight with a sword, so the Australian man knocks him out. At Laurel's house, she's trying to call Tommy, but he won't answer. Suddenly, and without warning, Cyrus Vance shows up at Laurel's house and he kidnaps her. Diggle has taken the initiative to drive Moira around and be her driver for a couple of days. So he takes her to a meeting with her accountant. He follows her in sneakily and he ends up hiding in a janitor's closet. So he's using a listening device to hear through the wall of the janitor's closet into the room that Moira and her accountant are in, and he overhears a very interesting conversation. So Moira's accountant is obviously Malcolm Merlin, and they're discussing some nefarious acts that they've just done. Moira admits that she threatened some dude called Carl Ballard. They mention this thing called the Undertaking. Merlin brings up the storage closet that they put the Queen's Gambit in. And Moira says out loud that she knew that the yacht was sabotaged. Diggle has all this on a recording. Tommy discovers that Laurel's been kidnapped. Oliver meets Diggle in the Arrow Cave, and he plays the recording he has of Moira and her mischievous mystery man talking about their murderous The funniest part of all of this is the recording is done in such a way so that Moira's voice is crystal clear, but Malcolm's voice is distorted beyond recognition, so they have no idea who she's talking to. Oliver hears all of this shit, and then he's like, Diggle, I still don't think my mom's evil. On the island, Oliver wakes up tied to a chair. The Australian man is looming over him, and then they get into a fight. Oliver breaks free from the restraints and, tries to attack the Australian man. This pleases him. It was all a test. And then the Australian man says that his name is Slade Wilson. Detective Lance calls the hood guy on the vigilante phone and tells him that Laurel has been kidnapped by Cyrus Vance. So he suits up and heads out to go save Laurel. This next scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. So Oliver arrives at the mansion where Vance is hiding. And he goes in, and he kills 10 guards on the way in. Cyrus Vance is kind of narrating the whole thing. He's like, there's 2 on the roof, 1 over there, 1 arrow here, he's gonna throw this, that, and the other. He knows exactly what the hood guy is about to do at every second, every step. And when the vigilante makes it to where Vance is, he's out of arrows. And Vance says, drop the bow, Merida. So then Lance busts in, and he wants to kill Vance, but the vigilante stops him. The vigilante confronts Laurel, and he tells her that he is not going to be dealing with her ever again. He wants her far away from this. And then Laurel and Tommy make up. Back on the island, Slade's like, hey, open that chest and pick out a weapon. I'm gonna train you. So Oliver goes over to this chest, and when he opens it up, he sees a 2-tone mask, half black, half white. He's like, oh my god, you're him, you're the guy who tortured me. And Slade's like, no, you don't understand. The guy that was torturing you, that's my old partner, Billy Wintergreen. And whenever I hear the name Billy Wintergreen, it just reminds me of Bill Williamson from Red Dead Redemption 2, which reminds me of the word lumbago. Anyways, Billiam Wintergreen was apparently Slade's partner back when they were working for Australian intelligence. Oliver and Diggle have a discussion. They're like, what is the Undertaking? What do we know? We know nothing. That's what we know. So Oliver's like, you know what, Diggle? You may be right about Moira. I'm gonna suit up as the vigilante, and I'm gonna go have a talk with her in the next episode, of course. These stats for this episode, the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 26. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver. He had 8. And the character with the most kills was Vance. He killed 53 people if you're counting the ones that were said off screen. But Oliver killed 14 people. Episode 14, The Odyssey. The Odyssey. The hood guy busts into Moira's office at Queen Consolidated. And he's like, what do you know about the list? Tell me about the Undertaking. And she shoots him with a gun. And then he has to jump out the window. Title screen. Felicity is minding her own damn business. She is getting into her car, heading home from a boring day at work. When she gets into her car, she finds the hood guy bleeding in the back seat. And so Oliver has to reveal himself to her, and then he asks her to drive him to the Arrow Cave, pretty please. Pretty please Uber me to the Arrow Cave, thank you, Felicity. Oliver has saved bags of blood for just this exact occasion, so Felicity and Diggle have to play doctor on him a little bit. Now, back on the island, Oliver and Slade are planning their big island escape. They are getting off this island. There is a supply plane that is going to land on Fire's airstrip on the island. Slade and Oliver are going to hijack that supply plane and get off the island. Slade is going to do most of the fighting. All Oliver has to do is sneak up into the air traffic control tower and take out one guy. One air traffic controller. That is Oliver's entire job. Meanwhile, at Fire's camp, Fires is talking to Yao Fei, and he's like, you better get your ass in line, because I have her, okay? And if you want to see her again, you better do what I want you to do, okay? We get a little bit of Slade Wilson lore. Slade and his partner, Billiam Wintergreen, were sent to the island by Australian intelligence to do some Australian intelligence-related things. When they got here, they ran into General Fires, who was able to convince Billiam Wintergreen to join him. And Slade was like, no, I ain't no fucking bitch. I'm not gonna work for you. Slade feels completely betrayed by Billiam Wintergreen. Especially so, because Billiam Wintergreen is his son Joe's godfather. In the Arrow Cave, Diggle reveals to Felicity that every single time Oliver was giving her random things to analyze, it was for a hood-related mission. And she's like, you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense. You know, now that I think about it, bullet hole laptop, Vertigo syringe. On the island, Oliver and Slade arrive at the airstrip. Slade goes in there and starts slaughtering, murdering. Oliver sneaks up into the air traffic control watchtower. His only job is to shoot one guy. Oliver does not shoot this guy. He chickens out like a pussy bitch, and the air traffic controller ends up fighting Oliver. Oliver gets saved by Slade, who comes in and kills the air traffic controller and then calls Oliver a little bitch. Slade leaves the watchtower for a second, and Oliver gets the bright idea to use one of the phones to call Laurel, and then Slade comes back in and disconnects it, and he's like, "Are you fucking stupid, bro?" The watchtower gets a radio from another air traffic controller, and Slade answers it. And immediately, I'm confused. Why is Slade Wilson the one radioing? Because he's got a thick Australian accent, and he's not trying to hide it. They receive a radio transmission with a secret code phrase. And Oliver's like, I know that quote that they're saying, that's from the Odyssey. And then Oliver is able to crack the code, and the air traffic controllers are sending the supply plane in as planned. Oliver being able to quote one specific line from the Odyssey, that drives me a little crazy. That drives me a little cuckoo crazy bananas. Anyway, Slade is like, hey Oliver, my master plan is once we are safely off this island, I'm calling in an airstrike and we're blowing up this entire thing. Oliver's like, ooh, but Yao Fei's here, and I don't think we should blow up Yao Fei. So you do you, Slade. I'm gonna run back and try and save Yao Fei before you blow up the island. In the Arrow Cave, John trauma dumps on Felicity about his time in Afghanistan. While he was a soldier in Afghanistan, he was tasked with transporting this warlord. And in the process, they got into a battle, and he had to, shoot some young soldiers in order to protect a warlord. On the island, Oliver finds Yao Fei. Yao Fei is like, hey, I would love to get out of here, but I can't, because there's someone here that I can't leave without. And then Fires comes back into the camp, and Yao Fei punches Oliver real quick. So Oliver's about to be murdered by Billiam Wintergreen, when suddenly, and without warning, Slade Wilson shows up. There's an absolutely epic sauce shot of Slade Wilson just walking in as shit blows up behind him. Oh my god, he looks so cool. So fucking cool. And then Slade Wilson fights Billiam Wintergreen. And this fight ends with Slade Wilson stabbing Billy Wintergreen in the eye. Hey, you know, Slade, they say what comes around goes around, so if I wouldn't get too attached to your papers. Fires then shoots Slade, and Oliver and Slade escape together. Back at the abandoned plane, Oliver pulls a bullet out of Slade's arm, and then they discuss how, hopefully, that explosion that they did is going to set them back. Oliver laughs at his own joke about being trapped on an island when his only friend is named Wilson. Back at Fire's camp, we get our first look at this mysterious her. Her name is Shadow, and she is Yao Fei's daughter. She has a very familiar tattoo on her shoulder. Back in the Arrow Cave, Felicity has upgraded the computers down there, and she says that she's gonna hang with them until they find Walter, because she really wants to find Walter just because Walter was nice to her. Oliver, he's awake now, and he tells Diggle that he needs to leave Moira out of this because Moira is so innocent. Then we get a shot of Oliver's back, and we see that he has the same tattoo as Shadow. Wow, how subtle. And then Oliver promises his mother that the vigilante will never hurt her again. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 33. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver, he had 9. And the character with the most kills was Slade, he killed 15 people. Episode 15, Dodger. The villain this week is called the Dodger. Yes, roll credits already, I know. And he is a jewel thief. The Dodger's whole thing is he has these bomb collars, and he puts them on his victims and he makes them commit the robberies for him, or else they'll explode. In the Arrow Cave, Oliver is going through his book, and he's like, I want to go after Ken Williams, because he's doing a pyramid scheme or something. And Felicity Googles Ken Williams and discovers that he has a family. And she's like, oh, we can't go after this guy. I can't be a part of this. This is all simply too crazy for me. On the island, Slade's bullet wound is infected. Yao Fei's magical island herbs are inside the cave. They're at the plane. So Oliver has to go from the plane to the cave, get the herbs, and then come back in order to save Slade Wilson. Title screen. We meet the third and final Frank of season 1. Frank Chen. Moira approaches Frank Chen, and she tells him that she wants out of the Undertaking, and she needs his help because he's the only Undertaking guy that she can trust. He's reluctant at first because he's scared of Malcolm, but he does agree to help Moira. Oliver and Diggle go to Queen Consolidated to try to convince Felicity to help them find the Dodger, and she agrees. Team Arrow is at Big Belly Burger, and Felicity notices that Diggle is kind of making eyes at Carly, and she's like, hey, you should ask her on a date. Carly is Diggle's dead brother's widow. Remember that. Felicity is like, hey, Oliver, we need to take a new approach of finding the Dodger, because I don't want to work with you if you're going to go all murder. Laurel and Thea are getting hot dogs in the Glades when all of a sudden a purse snatcher runs by and he snatches Thea's little purse. Oliver goes to kill two birds with one stone. He asks McKenna out on a date, and he bugs her cell phone. On the island, Oliver returns to Yao Fei's cave, and there's another man in there, and he is beaten and bruised and bloody, and he is begging for some help. In the Arrow Cave, they're listening in on McKenna's bugged phone, and they discover that the Dodger is trying to find a fence for his diamond. Thea is calling thrift stores, trying to figure out who the purse snatcher is, because she wants her damn purse back, and she discovers that his name is Roy Harper. Diggle's date with his dead brother's widow does not go well, because he thinks it's a great idea to bring up his dead brother on the date. On the island, that bruised and battered man, his name is Alan, and he says that he's been shipwrecked and he's the last survivor. His hands are tied up, and he wants Oliver to undo his restraints. Oliver and the team have been listening in on McKenna's phone. They discover that the cops have a lead on the Dodger, so the Hood suits up and goes to try and help the cops out, but it doesn't work. Oliver's new plan is that he's going to go to an auction, and he's going to put up one of his family's most expensive diamonds at this auction, and hopefully it will draw the Dodger out and he'll try and steal it. Lance has Roy Harper in the police station, and he's questioning him about the purse snatching, and Roy puts on a show. He's getting all teary and misty-eyed. Thea is watching this, and she's like, you know what, fuck it, just let him go, don't worry about it. So, at this jewelry auction, Felicity is looking like a snack. One thing about Felicity, she knows how to rock a fit. Oh my god, Felicity will show up in, the most jaw-dropping outfit. Obsessed with her. Obsessed with her. I love Felicity. Anyway, the Dodger does steal the diamond, and Felicity's, tracking him, and he ends up putting a bomb collar on Felicity's neck. The Hood guy gets into a car chase with the Dodger, and Diggle tries to get the bomb collar off of Felicity. Oliver corners the Dodger. He's got him surrounded. And, and the Dodger's like, take one more step, and I'll blow up the bomb that's around your friend's neck. And so Oliver shoots his arm with an arrow, and it severs, I guess the one important tendon that you need to, press your thumb. It's very fortunate that the Dodger forgot he had a second hand and didn't press the button with his other hand, because that would have been really bad. On the island, Oliver decides he's not going to save Alan, and he's going to leave him to rot in that cave. Alan will remember that. Diggle apologizes to Carly for their rancid first date, and they end up kissing. That's your dead brother's widow. Thea tracks down Roy at his trailer in the Glades, and she wants her purse back. She still hasn't gotten her purse back. That's all she wants. He's like, here's your damn purse. I took the cigarettes out. He tells her that she shouldn't trust every sob story that a guy like him tells the cops. Moira Queen is up to mischievous mayhem yet again. She meets with Slay Queen China White, and she's like, hey, I would like you to kill Malcolm Merlin. Pretty please, thank you. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 39. The character with the most smart remarks was also Oliver, he had 5. And the character with the most kills was a tie between McKenna and the Dodger. They both killed one person. Episode 16, Dead to Rights. There is an unauthorized helicopter landing in Starling City, so of course the Hood goes to see what is up. Known assassin Guillermo Barrera hops off this helicopter, and yes, that is how Oliver pronounced Guillermo Barrera. So Oliver kills this guy, and he steals his phone. Title screen. Oliver gives Felicity Barrera's phone, because he wants to know who the target is. On the island, Oliver and Slade are chilling in the wrecked plane, and Oliver catches a glimpse of the radio that was on the plane. Slade's like, that thing's fucked up. It doesn't work after the crash. And Oliver is like, I think I can fix it. You know, my dad owns some planes, and I've tinkered with their radios before, so I think I can get this up and running. And you would think that I would call this like a plot hole, but I believe he can do that. I have first-hand experience with the morons who work on planes, so like, I believe Oliver Queen can fix a little radio. Tommy's having a birthday party. Happy birthday, Thomas Merlin. Oliver and McKenna show up, and Laurel is also there. They're chilling, chit-chatting, having a talk. It's at Laurel's apartment, by the way. So McKenna is like looking at Laurel's photos, and she sees a picture of young Sarah and Laurel together, and Laurel mentions that Sarah used to have this freaking canary, and it would never stop yapping. Suddenly, and without warning. So there's a knock at the door, and Laurel goes to answer it, and you would think that at this point in her life, Laurel would have PTSD from people knocking on the doors, because Cyrus Vance knocked on the door before he kidnapped her. I would never want to open the door ever again if I was Laurel Lance, but whatever, she runs over to the door, opens it. Who is it? Malcolm Merlin! So Malcolm and Tommy step out into the hall for a little father-son conversation. Totally normal, non-hostile conversation that one would have with their father. Psych! It's extremely hostile. Malcolm invites Tommy to attend an award ceremony. He is going to be presented with a humanitarian award. It's going down at the Merlin Global Building. Don't you worry, I have much to say about the Merlin Global Building. Tommy declines. Tommy fucking roasts this man. He's like, oh what, did they run out of actual humans to give it to? That is a real quote from the show. Malcolm walks away, defeated, devastated. But then Tommy's like, wait. And before he turns around, Malcolm Merlin does this little smirk, because he thinks he just won. He thinks that Tommy's about to give in and join him at his dumbass award ceremony. But Tommy hits him with this banger. Sometimes the people that you want to be there the most aren't. You taught me that multiple times. Wasted. Way to kick him while he's down. Hell yeah, Tommy. Get him, get him, get him. Now we're in Bloodhaven, and I need you to brace yourself for the wig snatchery that is about to be happening in front of us, okay? Chen Na-wei strolls up to a bar in Bloodhaven, and she is there to speak with none other than dead hot, undead shot, Floyd Lawton. Floyd's like, you know what, Chen Na-wei, I don't do hits anymore. I'm retired, because my vision ain't what it used to be, because he's missing an eyeball. Chen Na-wei is like, yo, I got the fix for you, bro. She presents him with a fancy new piece of eyewear. She explains that she needs a high-profile target killed. Moira and Frank number 3 are discussing their hit on Malcolm. If you forgot that Chen Na-wei was after Malcolm, now you remember because they're talking about it. I love when they do that in this show. This show assumes the audience cannot remember a goddamn thing. This show's like, subtlety? Never met her. They plan to take out Malcolm Merlin at his awards ceremony. And then the two of them go into a meeting with Malcolm Merlin, Man of the Hour, and they pretend to support him. Oliver gets a lead that Guillermo Barrera is connected to the Triad potentially, so he takes Tommy to a Chinese restaurant, and while they're there having dinner, they discuss Malcolm Merlin and his many mistakes. Tommy explains that when he was 8 years old, Malcolm dipped. He was gone for 2 years, and when he came back, he was like a stone-cold bitch. Tommy felt closer to Robert than he did to Malcolm, which is upsetting. I'm upset. I'm very upset right now. Oliver's on his BS again about how maybe Malcolm actually does want to be a father. Maybe Malcolm is trying to make an effort. Oliver's trying to convince Tommy to go to the humanitarian awards ceremony and give Malcolm Merlin another chance. And Oliver, respectfully, shut the fuck up, dude. If Tommy wants to cut Malcolm out of his life, let him do it. Oliver sees a burly Chinese man walk to the back of the restaurant, so he sneakily follows him. He blinds somebody with sriracha and then asks them when the hit is going to happen. Now, all the Triad guys assume that this attacker was Chinese because he spoke fluent, perfect Chinese. So Oliver just gets to sit there and finish his fish, and nobody comes after him. Back on the island, it's weeks later. Oliver has been tinkering with this radio for weeks, and he finally gets it to work, but it can only receive and it can't transmit. Oliver, as the Hood, calls Detective Lance and says he needs help figuring out who the Triad are targeting. Lance wants to use this as an opportunity to double-cross the Hood in some way, shape, or form. China White's plan is she and her goons are going to distract everyone. They're going to cause a diversion. Once all of the other people have exited the building, dead hot dead shot Floyd Lawton is going to snipe Malcolm Merlyn. Holy moly, does he look good with that eyeball. Ooh, ooh. Laurel is getting calls from her mother, and she ignores them. At the Humanitarian Awards, Moira, Malcolm, and Frank are chatting, and she's chatting to Malcolm like nothing devious is afoot. And this scaves Frank out a little bit. He's like, wait a minute, how are you so able to easily lie to Malcolm like that when you're literally plotting his murder as we speak? I need you to know that in every single shot Malcolm Merlyn is in, he is framed in the most obviously evil way you could possibly frame a character. He's always sneaking up behind people. He's always sitting in the shadows. The camera always like slowly pans toward him. There's ominous music. It's like, give me a break. Oliver and McKenna are on a date when they discover that Malcolm Merlyn is the target. So they both ditch the date and they head to Merlyn Global. So Malcolm is giving his acceptance speech to the Humanitarian Awards. Tommy decided to show up, so that was really sweet of him, I guess, but it's also really unfortunate because some shit's about to go down. So they pull the fire alarm. Everyone starts evacuating. Malcolm sees the Triad guys murdering his security staff. So he grabs Tommy and starts running upstairs to his upstairs office on the top floor of the Merlyn Global building. Now, on the way up the building, they do get stopped by two dudes with guns. Malcolm Merlyn is able to maneuver and knock out both of these guys and kill them right in front of Tommy. Malcolm and Tommy get to the top floor, the penthouse where his office is. There is also a panic room in there. Deadshot is in position across the street to snipe Malcolm Merlyn through his big ass window. So Chen Na-wei and the hood guy get into a fight in the hallway. She is wearing like a form-fitting little white dress, and she's wearing heels, and she's fighting Oliver at the same time. Tommy and Malcolm are at the top floor of the Merlyn Global building. Malcolm opens the panic room. Inside the panic room is the Dark Archer costume. Tommy does not see the Dark Archer costume because suddenly, and without warning, Malcolm Merlyn gets shot with a bullet from Floyd Lawton. And when he stumbles backwards, he ends up hitting the button that closes the panic room. Malcolm has been hit with 3 Floyd Lawton bullets, and he is on the ground. Fortunately for Malcolm Merlyn, he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Oliver was fighting Chen Na-wei, and then he also had to fight McKenna really quick too, but then once he's done with that, he runs up to the top floor, and now he sees Malcolm Merlyn lying on the floor, all dead-like. This is really bad because remember, Deadshot laces his bullets with curare. So Tommy's freaked out that the hood is there, and the hood's like, listen, you gotta trust me, there's poison in these bullets, and we gotta do a blood transfusion right now. And so Oliver pulls back his hood and reveals himself to Tommy. And then they do a blood transfusion on the floor in the dark of the Merlyn Global building with glass shards all around them. I mean, I'm not a doctor, and I know that there's no fucking way that Oliver Queen would have been able to so quickly do a blood transfusion of this caliber in a dimly lit room. It works, Malcolm is fine. And then Oliver gets away before Malcolm can see his face. Obviously, when this is all said and done, Malcolm is being taken to the hospital, and the cops question Tommy. They're like, hey, the hood a friend of yours? And he's like, nope, I don't know who that guy is. Never met him. Moira Queen is freaking out. Back on the island, the geniuses realize that they have a receiver. They can tune it to Fires' radio frequency and listen in on him. So they tune into the frequency, and they hear these men yapping about something called Scylla, and Oliver's like, OMG, another Odyssey reference. And I'm like, OMG, are they giving Homer a writing cred for this shit? Oliver breaks the news to Diggle that Floyd Lawton is alive. And this is very upsetting for Diggle. On the island, Oliver and Slade discover that this Scylla thing is a giant missile launcher. Malcolm and Tommy are in the hospital, and Malcolm reveals to him that the 2 years that he abandoned Tommy, he was at a place called Nanda Parbat, and he met a man there who taught him many things. And he'll tell Tommy all about it, but just not right now. Then Moira shows up to Malcolm's hospital room, and he's like, Moira, we have a problem. There is a rat. And then he tasks Moira with helping him find out who the mole is. Tommy asks Oliver if he was ever going to tell him that he was the hood, and Oliver's like, I wasn't planning on it, you know. Laurel gets a visit from her mother, who thinks that Sarah is still alive. These stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 34. The character with the most smart remarks was Tommy, he had 8. And the character with the most kills was China White. She killed 5 people. I counted any triad kill towards her total, and Oliver killed 3 people. Episode 17, The Huntress returns. Nicki Minaj's Vava Room is blaring on the speakers while Helena Bertinelli struts into the club. She is dressed in like what I can only describe as a slutty Shadowheart cosplay. She approaches a man named Gus, takes him to a private room, and then starts torturing him for information about her father. After she gets the information she needs, she puts 2 arrows in his chest and then gets out of there on her motorcycle. Title screen. Oliver's club is about to open. Grand opening, woo! He invites McKenna to be his date. Oliver Queen has canonically dated Steve Aoki's sister in the past. I do believe Mr. Aoki has multiple sisters. Not entirely sure which one Oliver is referring to here. Laurel has lunch with her mother and her father. Now, Dinah Lance, Laurel's mother, has gathered them here because she believes in her heart that Sarah is alive. She's out there somewhere, just like Oliver was, and they need to find her. Quentin is really upset about this. He's like, I can't believe you would just come back here and then reopen these old wounds. Thea and her unnamed Asian friend are walking around on the streets when they see Roy, and Thea offers Roy a job at her brother's club. In the Arrow Cave, Diggle is doing some serious Google searching on Deadshot because he's kind of obsessed with that guy. And honestly, me too, Dig. Oliver and Diggle have security cam footage of Helena Bertinelli in that club killing that guy, and they're like, this is really bad. Helena is at the Queen Mansion talking to Moira and Thea, and when Oliver gets there, she threatens his family in order for him to help her get her father. Oliver refuses to help her because he is in his Batman no-kill era. Oliver talks to Tommy because Tommy is still working at his club, and he's like, hey, are we cool? And Tommy's like, no, we're the opposite of cool. I don't trust you. I think you're a murderous psychopath. Back on the island, Oliver and Slade have some binoculars, and they're looking at this giant missile launcher. And they're like, that's really bad. We have to destroy this thing because whatever Fires is planning to blow up with that, it's not gonna be good. Laurel approaches her father, and she's like, hey, I know you don't want to talk about this Sarah stuff. I know that's triggering and traumatic for you. I get it. Same, honestly. But I would like you to look over the evidence that Dinah has brought and set her straight. The club is officially open. Steve Aoki is there doing DJ stuff. And then Tommy is like sadly watching him from the bar. He's not having a good time. Laurel's like, hey, Tommy, what's going on with you? Do you want to talk about it? And he's like, nope. And then he leaves. Helena runs into Tommy, and she takes him to a back room and ties him up. Oliver finds Helena holding Tommy hostage. Oliver agrees to help her kill her father. I've said this already, but like this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire show. So we're in the Arrow Cave. Diggle and Oliver are down there, and they're discussing Helena Bertinelli. And Oliver's like kind of relating to her. He's like, Diggle, she just wants to kill her father because he like really hurt her, you know? And then he says this absolute banger line. What would you do? If Floyd Lawton was standing right there. So that's an absolutely wild thing to say. What would you do? That's like my favorite thing that Oliver Queen has ever said. What would you do? If Floyd Lawton was standing right there, honestly. So then Helena shows up and she's like, hey, here's what's going on. The police have 2 vans. One of those vans has my father in it. The other one is a decoy. So, good thing there's 2 of us. Thea goes to Roy's trailer in the Glades, and she's like, hey, why didn't you come to the club's opening? I got you a job. You didn't show. And he looks her up and down like a total fuckboy, and is like, I don't want your charity. And then he slams the door. And so she starts walking back, and she gets attacked by some thugs. Roy jumps out from the shadows and saves her from these thugs. Here it comes. Here comes one of the most annoying scenes in the entire show, right? So there's 2 vans. One's got Mr. Bertinelli, one does not have Mr. Bertinelli. Oliver goes after his truck. He stops the truck, checks the back, it's completely empty. There's no extra police, there's nobody in there. Before Oliver can get there, Helena stops the car. When she opens it up, there's an entire squad of police officers back there. They surround her, and then Quentin Lance says, Helena Bertinelli, you're under arrest. My question: why were there no cops in the decoy car? They could have caught both of them. They could have had the fucking Archer and the Huntress. 2-for-1 special. But there were 0 cops in the other car. It was completely empty. Riddle me this. Were there not enough cops? Is the SCPD so underfunded that they could only afford extra security for one truck? Is it just like a roll of the dice? Like, if we catch one, we'll surely get the other one right after. Like, I don't get it. I don't get the logic. It's a huge plot hole for me. Make it make sense. So Helena is being questioned by Lance and McKenna, and she's like, the Hood is Oliver Queen. And they're like, stop lying to me. We know the Hood is not Oliver Queen. He was cleared of those charges. So the Hood obviously busts Helena Bertinelli out of jail. Roy and Thea are at the hospital because he needs to get his stab wound stitched up, and she kisses him to distract him from the pain. How cute, okay. Oliver tells Helena that she needs to leave Starling City. GTFO my city, you have failed my city. On the island, Oliver and Slade, they're setting up explosives around the missile launcher to try and blow it up, but then Oliver gets the bright brainy idea to, instead of blowing it up, just take the circuit board out of it so that it can't work. And Slade's like, hey, oh my god, for a stupid little rich boy, you're kinda smart. You're kinda smart, Oliver. Oliver and McKenna have fade to black sex while an Ed Sheeran song plays in the background. Helena does not GTFO the city. Instead, she goes to Queen Consolidated and forces Felicity to figure out where her father is. So Oliver's pissed, because no one goes after Felicity and gets away with it, alright? Felicity is too pure and precious. So Oliver goes after Helena. She kills 9 guards on the way in. Oliver shoots the crossbow out of her hand to stop her from making it 10. And then she picks up a shotgun and runs after her father. Oliver tries to shoot Helena with an arrow, but she catches it in her hand before it hits her, and then the two of them fight hand to hand for a little bit. Until McKenna shows up. She tells the Hood to drop his bow. In the middle of all of this chaos and confusion, Helena Bertinelli grabs the shotgun and she fucking shoots McKenna right through the chest at close range with a shotgun. Girlie wasn't just shot, she was obliterated. Oliver goes to see McKenna in the hospital. She survived. That's a fucking miracle. She tells Oliver that she's moving to Coast City because they have better hospitals there, better treatments for her issues, and she's probably never going to walk properly ever again. Why did they do this to her? Quentin Lance finally goes to his ex-wife and is like, yes, I am ready to hear what you have to say about our possibly not dead daughter. Oliver is upset because his JoJo Siwa dream guest on his podcast just shot another one of his JoJo Siwa dream guests on his podcast. So he's not having a great night. Tommy comes up to him, tries to chat a little bit, and it seems like Tommy and Oliver might be mending their relationship a little bit. Emphasis on the might. On the island, Oliver and Slade now have a working transmitter. So they radio to Fires, and they tell him that they have his circuit board, and they'll only give it to him if they get safe passage off the island. The stats for this episode: the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver, he had 36. The character with the most smart remarks was Roy, he had 10. And the character with the most kills was Helena, she killed 10 people. Slade killed 9 people. Episode 18, Salvation. The Hood's target this week is some dude called John Nickel. He's a real bad guy. He's been putting faulty smoke alarms in people's houses. So Oliver suits up and goes to have a chat with Mr. Nickel. But what's this? Someone has already gotten to him first. Nickel has been tied up and put into the back of a van. Oliver comes back to the Arrow Cave and declares that he is going after the person who went after Nichols, because he doesn't want there to be any bad guys on the streets. On the island, Fires agrees to give Oliver and Slade a boat in return for his wonderful circuit board. Title screen. Thea and Roy are at his trailer. They're getting a little spicy when suddenly, and without warning, there's a knock at the door, and it's some guy. He gives Roy a brown paper bag, and Thea's like, hey, what's in the bag? There's a gun in the bag. It's a gun. But Roy's like, yo, don't worry about it. I'm just going to, rob a liquor store. It's no big deal. Hey, Thea, it's no big deal. I'm going to take the bullets out of the gun. I'll take the bullets out if that'll make you feel better. But it won't make her feel better. Thea tells Roy that he's just a waste, and she should have known better. And if she had a wish, she would have never effed around. Laurel is devastated when she shows up at Lance's house and she finds Lance and Dinah have this whole murder board on the wall and they're really getting into it trying to find Sarah. And Laurel's like, Dad, I told you to talk Mom out of this shit. What is this? You're making it worse. Diggle and Oliver are at the only burger joint in the city when suddenly, and yes, without warning, everyone's phone goes off because there's a broadcast. One of the neckbeards in the Discord server has just added everyone in the entire city and is forcing them all to watch this broadcast. He has John Nickel. He executes him live in 480p over Twitch. This guy, the killer, the Twitch killer, he's serving the Edward Cullen Batman Riddler vibes, like the de-yassified Riddler. So in the Arrow Cave, they're trying to figure out anything they can about the de-yassified Riddler when suddenly, and without any warning whatsoever, the Riddler has another guy, Gavin Carnahan, and he's gonna execute him too. While he's monologuing to this Gavin Carnahan guy, the de-yassified Riddler reveals that he has a wife who was murdered by gangbangers in the Glades. And so Felicity does some Googling and discovers that this man must be Joseph Falk. So Diggle and Oliver are breathing down Felicity's neck, like trying to get her to ping the signal and figure out where this guy's broadcasting from, and she can't do it because the signal keeps like bouncing all around and she can't track him. And then Gavin Carnahan is murdered live on stream. And Felicity is devastated. While all this is going down, Moira meets with Frank number 3, and she's worried. She's like, hey, I think that Malcolm might be on to us. I believe we might be cooked. She's like, hey, Frank number 3, I want you to know that there is nothing that I won't do to protect my family. Just keep that in your back pocket, Frank number 3. On the island, Oliver and Slade meet up with General Fires. Of course, this was a trick. He's not giving them a boat. Instead, he presents to them Yao Fei's daughter, and he says that he will kill her unless they give him the circuit board. Laurel, wearing her cute wishbone necklace, invites her parents to come down to CNRI because she wants them to meet somebody. The biggest piece of evidence that Dinah has that makes her believe that Sarah might still be alive. There's a picture of a woman wearing a Star City Rockets baseball cap on an island near the coast of China. And she thinks that that woman could be Sarah. So Laurel shows them the real woman from the picture. She is not Sarah. And this is devastating to Dinah and Quentin. Roy Harper gets kidnapped by the de-yassified Riddler, and he's unable to defend himself because he took all of the bullets out of his gun. Thea runs back to the club, and she's like, Oliver, oh my god, he has Roy, oh my god. The de-yassified Riddler kidnapped Roy because he's, quote, just another gangbanger like the ones that killed my wife. Chat, should I kill this kid? Moira is minding her business when she gets a phone call from Malcolm. Malcolm's all excited because he thinks he found the traitors. Someone from the Triad is going to squeal like a little piggy, and by the end of the night, he will know exactly who tried to murder him. Dinah is packing up her missing posters when the rest of the family shows up, and she gives a dramatic speech about how she knew that Sarah was going to get on that boat with Oliver. She saw her before she left. And she encouraged Sarah to go on this boat with Oliver because she wanted her to chase her dreams or whatever. And so Dinah blames herself because if she had just told Sarah that she couldn't get on the boat, then Sarah would still be alive. Diggle realizes that the de-yassified Riddler must be using the subway, and that's why his broadcast keeps moving around and why they can't get a location on him. So Oliver suits up and goes down to the subway to save Roy, a certified subway surfer. On the island, a fight breaks out. Oliver, Slade, Shadow, and Yao Fei are making their escape, but Yao Fei gets shot. So he's left behind, and the other 3 of them run away. Subway surfer Oliver Queen catches up to the de-yassified Riddler. The de-yassified Riddler is like asking Roy Harper to plead his case. Why should I let you live, Roy? And Roy says, just kill me. I'm a waste. And Oliver actually has to kill the de-yassified Riddler in order to save Roy, thus breaking his Batman-era no-kill streak. Roy and Thea hug each other, they make up. Now Roy has one of those green arrowheads. On the island, Fires has found the circuit board, so now his missile launcher is operational. Man, they really should have blown it up. Shadow is like, guys, I know what Fires is planning, but I'm not gonna tell you yet because we gotta pad the runtime with some suspense. So Moira meets with Frank number 3, and she's like, I'm sorry I had to do it to you, but like, the evidence was overwhelming. I told Malcolm everything that you did, and you alone, to set up the hit. And he's like, Moira, what are you... And then he gets shot. He gets shot by an arrow because the Dark Archer is there. Goodbye, Frank 3, the best of the Franks. In the Arrow Cave, the team realizes that creepy little symbol on Robert's list matches the map of the subway lines. So they're like, OMG. Whatever this Undertaking is, it must be connected to the subway, which runs underneath the glades. So the stats for this episode, the character with the most dramatic pauses was the de-yassified Riddler. He had 30. The character with the most smart remarks was Laurel. She had 11. And the character with the most kills was a tie between Slade and the de-yassified Riddler. They both killed 2 people. Oliver killed 1 person. Episode 19. Unfinished business. Outside of Oliver's club, there is a blonde girl, and she is high on vertigo. She gets hit by a car. Lance shows up to question Oliver and Tommy because he thinks that they might be pushing Vertigo out of their club. They're not, but Lance doesn't believe that. So Lance takes a trip to the psych ward to pay a visit to Count Vertigo, because if Vertigo is back out on these streets, that's the guy who knows how to make it. Lance ends up talking to one of the doctors who works very closely with crazy Count Vertigo. And this doctor is very sus, and he's like right out the gate, this guy's evil. He tells Lance that Count Vertigo has not spoken a coherent sentence from the moment that he entered their facility. On the island, Oliver is watching while Slade and Shadow fight each other. The punching sound effects are crazy. This show goes absolutely crazy with the sound effects, and that goes all across the board for every Arrowverse shows. Like, they don't know. They don't know what is too much, and I love that. So Slade and Shadow are, like, flirting with each other, and then Oliver's like, hey, I don't know how to fight, and Shadow's like, cool, I will train you. Team Arrow is watching a news report, and they discover that the Count has just escaped the psych ward. Title screen, Lance talks to the sussy doctor again, and the doctor's like, listen, the Count, he pulled a fast one on me. He was deceiving me this whole time. He forced me to let him out through the service exit. Like, there was nothing I could do. Lance discovers that there is $10,000 missing dollars from the club's bank accounts, and he will have to question Tommy at some point. Lance is kind of conflicted, because he doesn't want to go after Tommy because that's Laurel's new boyfriend. But also, he hates Tommy, and he kind of wants to go after him. So Team Arrow's plan is they bought some Vertigo and then put a tracker in the money, so hopefully the money will lead them back to whoever is making the Vertigo. Felicity is helping Diggle track down Deadshot. Lance goes to question Tommy about the missing $10K, and Laurel is like not having this. She's like, don't answer any of his questions, not without your lawyer present. On the island, Shadow's version of training is just having Oliver slap water in a bowl repeatedly. There's some guy at the Starling City Aquarium, and he is high on Vertigo, and he's shooting the place up, so Oliver goes there to try and defuse the situation. Now, Felicity tries to call Diggle, because Oliver needs backup at the aquarium, but he is too busy meeting with Lila Michaels from Argus. And with that, all of the question marks are officially off the board. You've seen everything there is to see. Diggle gives Lila all of the intel that he has gotten from Felicity on Deadshot in hopes that Argus will be able to find him. Lila wants to know why he cares so much, but he doesn't tell her. Oliver attempts to save the man at the aquarium, but he dies before Oliver can give him any of his magical island herbs. On the island, Shadow tells the 2 men that Fires is planning on using her father as a scapegoat for whatever devious thing he's about to do. Lance returns to the club with a search warrant, and he demands that Oliver lets him into the basement. So Oliver opens the door to the Arrow Cave, and when Lance goes in there, it's just empty. It's totally cleared out. It's just a regular storage room. And then Oliver thanks Tommy for protecting his secret. My question, how did Tommy get in there? Did Oliver give Tommy the password? Tommy tells Oliver that he is done. He's done with all of Oliver's shit. He says, I have no idea how you find it so easy to kill people. The next time that you think the worst of me, imagine how I now think of you. And then he quits the club and leaves. Oliver and Diggle have an argument because Oliver's mad that Diggle didn't come for backup, and he's also even more mad that Diggle didn't tell him that he was trying to find Deadshot. And Diggle's like, listen, man, this is important to me. This is my dead brother Andy we're talking about. I'm sleeping with my dead brother's ex-wife. I need to find Deadshot. Felicity thinks that the Count might still be in the psych ward, so Oliver suits up to go check it out. By the light of a green glow stick, Oliver enters the asylum, and he finds the Count strapped to a chair. This sussy doctor is the real mastermind behind all of this. He knocks Oliver out, ties him up, and then monologues about all of the evil things he's done. So Oliver is now out of his restraints, but he is all fucked up because there's vertigo in his system now. It's really lucky that Diggle shows up as backup, and they fight the doctor together. Oliver shoots the sussy doctor and kills him, but he leaves the Count alive. On the island, Oliver has finally graduated from slapping water to drawing a bow. And when he tries to draw the bow, it's giving chiropractic realness, like the sound that comes out of this bowstring. I don't think that's how bows sound. Oliver and Diggle kiss and make up, and Oliver agrees that it's time to go after Floyd Lawton, because if it's important to Diggle, then it's important to him, because they're brothers. Tommy is talking to a mysterious somebody who is off-screen, back-turned, and he's like, I considered your offer, and I would like a job. Things fell through with the club. I think I might have better luck here. And of course he's talking to Malcolm Merlyn. Who else would he be talking to? But they had to do it in the most dramatic way possible. They had to have him in a dramatic swivel chair. The stats for this episode. The character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 31. The character with the most smart remarks was Tommy. He had 9. And the character with the most kills was the sussy doctor. He killed 2 people. Oliver killed 1 person. Episode 20, Home Invasion. I want to show you my guy. His name is Frank. I love him. I made him. I'm his creator. I'm his mother. I have many, many Franks. I have an army of Franks. So many Franks. An abundance of Franks. Okay, let's get into this. Home invasion. In the Arrow Cave, Felicity comes down there and she proudly declares that she has hacked into Argus and she has some information on Deadshot. Apparently, Argus have set a trap for Deadshot. Diggle wants to go there to, just ensure that it happens, you know? Oliver's like, I'm going to have dinner with Laurel. And they're both like, dinner with what? And then Felicity reveals that she is not a natural blonde. On the island, Oliver, Shadow, and Slade are forming a plan to attack fires, save Yalfei, and get off the island. This plan is contingent on Oliver being able to use a bow and arrow to provide covering fire for Shadow and Slade. So if Oliver can't learn to passably shoot a bow and arrow by sundown, they're gonna need a new plan. So John goes to Argus to talk to Lila, and she's like, hey, I know about Andy. I know why you're so invested in this Deadshot business. Stay out of this, Johnny. Yeah, she calls him Johnny. The two of them, Lila and John Diggle, they have a history. Quite a complicated one. At Sienna Rye, Oliver stops by to grab Laurel so that he can take her to dinner. She asks for a rain check because things at work are a little hectic. She's got these 3 new clients, Eric, Nancy, and their son Taylor. Taylor is like a wee little boy. These people are trying to sue a man called Edward Rasmus, and with a name like that, this dude probably doesn't want to get sued, I would imagine. Rasmus hires a hitman to go after Eric, Nancy, and their son and kill them so that he doesn't have to deal with whatever the shit that they're doing in court is. This hitman shows up to their house and he kills Eric and Nancy, but the little boy Taylor gets away. And I need you to know, this hitman, I drew him right here, he slays, boots the house down. He is serving! Oh my god, the delivery, the sass, the way he struts around, the way he doesn't give a fuck, the way he will kill a child. It's serving. Title screen. Laurel agrees to take temporary custody of Taylor until his relatives can come get him, because they're not in the city. It's going to take a day or 2 before they can come collect this little boy. So Laurel and Tommy are now foster parents to Taylor for the night, okay? On the island, Shadow is teaching Oliver how to fight fire a bow and arrow. Things get weirdly flirty, and Slade catches the two of them in a moment where Shadow has her hand on Oliver's chest. This fuck-ass love triangle is certainly not going to get complicated in season 2. Certainly not. Definitely not. Why would you think that? Roy Harper goes to the police station, and he steals one of the police radios. Laurel and Tommy are chilling at Laurel's house with Taylor when suddenly, and without, there's a knock at the door, and yes, it's the hitman, okay? Because normal people don't knock at Laurel Lance's door. He comes in there, and he wants to kill Taylor, and now, of course, he also has to kill Tommy and Laurel by association. Laurel is not fucking around. She grabs a shotgun, and she attempts to shoot the hitman with the shotgun. Does Laurel Lance look absolutely jaw-droppingly hot with a shotgun? Yes, she does. The hitman is about to kill Laurel when the hood guy busts through her window and saves her, and the hitman runs away. Lance wants to put Tommy, Laurel, and the kid in protective custody, but Tommy has a better idea, because Tommy knows that protective custody in this universe is the equivalent of putting a target on your back and running up and down the street. Tommy's like, hey, why don't we have a sleepover at the Queen Mansion? The Queens have all sorts of security. There's no safer place than the Queen Mansion. Now, if I'm Detective Lance, red flags raised. Because surely Malcolm Merlyn also has the most state-of-the-art security at the Merlyn Mansion. So why would Tommy Merlyn suggest going to the Queen Mansion when he has a mansion of his own to go to? They go to the Queen Mansion, and Tommy is expecting that Oliver will stay there and protect them, because this hitman is definitely coming back. But Oliver has to leave with Diggle for the Lawton meeting, so Tommy's kind of pissed off that Oliver is abandoning them. But Oliver's like, listen, dude, chill, okay? You'll be fine. Roy and Thea are at Big Belly Burger when his police radio starts making noise. He gets a report that there's a vigilante sighting at the docks, so he wants to go there. When he gets to the docks, turns out it was all a fucking fake out because Lance knew that he stole the radio and he wanted his radio back, and he also arrests Roy Harper. Felicity tells Oliver that he needs to choose between helping Diggle with the Deadshot thing or going after Rasmus, because Rasmus is about to flee town. Diggle is at Argus. Oliver went after Rasmus, of course, because he loves to leave Diggle hanging. Deadshot discovers that this whole thing was a setup, and a fight breaks out at Argus. Diggle runs after Deadshot, and then Deadshot corners Diggle, points 2 guns at him, and says, on your knees. Wait, rewind it. 10 seconds back, rewind, watch it again. Did I do that? Who's to say? Deadshot is not planning on killing John Diggle because no one's paying him to. Diggle and Felicity are both very fucking PO'd that Oliver decided to not back up Diggle. On the island, Oliver and Shadow make out in the forest. Oliver, when he went after Rasmus, did not kill Rasmus. So Rasmus is now like about to get on a plane and leave the city, but the hitman shows up and kills Rasmus because anyone who sees his face must be killed, right? At the police station, Lance brought Roy there for the sole purpose of showing him what happens to people who get too close to the vigilante. They die. The hitman arrives at the Queen Mansion to try and finish off what he started. Oliver ends up killing the hitman in a dramatic way, and honestly, the fight between Oliver and the hitman, iconic. Great fight choreography. Stand out, in my opinion. When the police arrive and ask Oliver what happens, Oliver claims that it was one of the security guards that the hitman killed who defended them against the hitman. Oliver and Tommy have a little chat, and he's like, are you going to tell Laurel your secret? And Oliver says, no, of course I would never do that. Tommy says to Oliver, I don't know how to be with Laurel, knowing that the entire time that if she found out who you really were, she would choose you. Tommy breaks up with Laurel the next day. Thea agrees to help Roy in his endeavors of finding the vigilante. Diggle quits Team Arrow. It's breakups all around. On the island, Oliver and his friends are ambushed by fires because Yao Fei led them to the plane. The stats for this episode, the character with the most dramatic pauses was the tie between Oliver and Laurel. They both had 22. The character with the most smart remarks was Oliver. He had 8. And the character with the most kills was the sassy hitman. He killed 6 people. Oliver killed 1 person. Episode 21. the Undertaking. Oliver goes out and steals the laptop from some dude called Harold Backman, and he wants Felicity to crack it and then send the money he stole back to their rightful owners, right? Whatever. Okay, typical Arrow shit. Felicity is like, hey, Oliver, when are you and Diggle going to make up? Okay, because it's a little lonely down here without Diggle. And Oliver's like, I'm not gonna go talk to Diggle. Diggle has to go talk to me. This is a flashback to before the Queen's Gambit went down, where at the Queen Mansion, Moira is inviting Malcolm Merlyn into their home to attend a meeting with other dudes. Okay, you know how it is. Moira and Malcolm are so cute in this flashback. Guys, cheating is wrong, but they're really cute together. They make a great couple. In the meeting, Malcolm addresses Robert, Frank Chen, and a couple other dudes. These people each have their own copy of the list. They are part of the Undertaking. They've all lost something very important because of the Glades. The Glades are the problem, and the Undertaking is meant to fix the Glades. And Malcolm is kind of tired, because for years, they have been leveraging the worst of the city, and they're trying to have those people make amends and make the city better, make the Glades better, but it's not working. And Malcolm has a very drastic plan B that he would like to run by everyone. That plan B, of course, is let's fucking nuke the Glades and build them over again, in my image. Robert's not exactly okay with this. Felicity goes to Oliver, and she reveals that she found something shocking on Mr. Harold Backman's computer. Apparently, the day that Walter was kidnapped, $2 million was transferred to somebody, and she thinks that $2 million went to the person who kidnapped Walter. Title screen. Oliver and Felicity discover that Dominic Alonso, an underground casino runner, might have a connection to Walter. He may have been the person who kidnapped him. So they need to go infiltrate that casino. Felicity is like, slay, mama, let's go gamble. And Oliver's like, girl, you have no business in a casino. And she's like, I have every business in the casino, actually. I can count cards, and I'm hot. So let me go. Now to continue the flashback, everybody else leaves, and the only two people that are left are Malcolm and Robert. And Malcolm is like, Robert, what do I have to say to convince you that leveling the Glades and destroying everything there is the only way to fix the problem? And Robert's like, listen, my guy, this is insane. You're acting insane. This is crazy, insane sauce, alright? And Malcolm's like, you want to know something else insane? Rebecca called me the night that she died. She called me while she was bleeding out on the pavement, but my fucking dumb ass did not answer the phone because I was too busy with stocks or bonds and shit. And the people on the Glades, they just walked by. They just let her fucking die in the Glades. The Glades are fucked, man. They're past gone. They're way past gone, and they always have been. We just need to destroy them for Rebecca. Malcolm's like, Robert, what would you do, if the roles were reversed? What would you do, if it was Moira who was bleeding out on the pavement? And Robert's like, this is still crazy, okay? Cray Cray Town, you've entered Cray Cray Station. Like, what is this? Felicity goes to see Diggle and try to convince him to come back and join Team Arrow, but he says that he will not come back to Team Arrow until Oliver himself apologizes. Now it's time for my rant about the architecture of the Merlyn Global Building. The Merlyn Global Building is an absolute monstrosity. It is a rectangle, erected from the ground up, made of nothing but glass. And I'm not joking. The entire building is windows. It's impossible to tell where the wall begins and the window ends, because it's all just windows. Windows from top to bottom. Whoever photoshopped the Merlyn Global Building into the city skyline, they were on some shit. All they did was they took the fucking building and decreased the opacity, making this building completely fucking see-through. You can see all of the buildings right through it. This is an air traffic nightmare. The FAA would lose their shit if this building was real. They would go nuts. Planes would be crashing into this motherfucking building, left, right, and center. Also, you know how you take a magnifying glass and then you put it over an ant, and if the sun hits it just right, the ant will catch on fire? Imagine you're walking down the streets of Starling City and you have to walk past the Merlin Global building at fucking high noon. You're roasting! You're going to catch on fire and burn up. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's just glass. It's just glass, I don't understand. I don't get it. Am I missing something? Am I crazy? Look at it in the nighttime. Look at this picture of the nasty ass glass Merlin Global building at night. Ew! Honestly, what is this? It's made of glass. The nasty ass glass Merlin Global building is my 13th fucking reason. Laurel goes to the nasty ass glass Merlin Global building to talk to Tommy because she thinks this breakup is a little excessive. And Tommy is so cold to her. He says that they can't be together because Oliver still has feelings for her. Felicity and Oliver's master plan is Felicity is going to go into this casino and then get caught counting cards. She will then be escorted back to the manager's office and given a talking to. No counting cards here, ma'am. And while she's back there, she will bug his computer. She'll insert a flash drive or something, and then they will be able to find out if this man is connected to Walter. Malcolm and Moira are at the nasty ass glass Merlin Global building, which I hate. I hate it. It's gross. It's disgusting. They're discussing the Undertaking. Malcolm is like, hey, Moira bestie, the earthquake machine is almost built. It's almost ready to go. And she's like, great, yes, I stand an earthquake king. And then they have a wild exchange of words. He's like, Moira, you may be surprised to know that I sometimes waver in my convictions, but your friendship, your endless support, always gives me the strength to carry on. After all, you and I will always have a connection. I'm sorry, what kind of connection are we talking about, Malcolm? I don't like where this is going. And then they toast to Robert and Rebecca. Ooh, weird vibes. The vibes are weird, the vibes are rancid in the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global building tonight. Continuing the flashback, Moira confronts Robert, and she's like, listen, is everything you're saying true? Like, is Malcolm really trying to fucking destroy the Glades? You have to stop this, Robert. You have to do something. This is crazy. And Robert's like, I know, Moira, I know. I will do something, I swear. So, at the casino, Felicity does get taken back to the manager. She gets threatened, and then Oliver busts into the casino, and then they confront Alonzo, and Alonzo reveals that Walter is dead. He's dead, bro. Oops. So Oliver, of course, breaks the news that Walter is dead to Moira and Thea. And Moira is so fucking angry. Let's continue the flashback. Frank number 3 is talking to Robert. They discover that Malcolm wants to rebuild the Glades after he destroys them, so he's been buying up all the property. And Robert and Frank are like, if we can buy up the rest of the property in the Glades, then Malcolm will stop this, because he won't be able to rebuild that part of the Glades. And then, it's such a dumb plan, like, it's obviously not going to work. And then they plan to go to China and meet in China. So back in the present, Moira Queen storms into the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global building, and she's like, Malcolm, we had a deal, goddammit! What the fuck? You told me that Walter was alive! And he's like, Walter is alive, you fucking maniac. And then he shows her live stream video feed footage of Walter currently breathing. And of course, Oliver was stalking her, so he overhears this entire exchange and then plans to break Walter out of wherever the fuck he is. Oliver kills a whole bunch of dudes on the way in that place, and they free Walter and bring him home. Continuing the flashback, the Queen's Gambit is about to leave. Moira says goodbye to Robert, who is supposed to be getting on this boat alone, but then suddenly, and without warning, Oliver shows up at the docks because he wants to come too. And then Sarah Lance also gets on the boat. Now, I'm confused, okay, because we know that Moira knows that the yacht was sabotaged, but we don't know when she found that out. She could have found that out after the fact. From the dialogue in the earlier episodes, it would make sense that Moira knows that the boat is sabotaged from day fucking 1. So, for her to just let Oliver get on that boat, how scared of Malcolm is she? And turns out Frank number 3 was also in on it. He planted the bomb on the boat. At the hospital, Malcolm shows up to talk to Oliver, Moira, Walter, everyone who's there. And he's like, hey, Oliver, did Walter ID any of his captors? And Oliver's like, no, but they'll get what's coming to them. Oliver finally apologizes to John Diggle. Diggle agrees to return to Team Arrow. The stats for this episode, the character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 53. The character with the most smart remarks was a tie between Oliver and Felicity. They both had 7. And the character with the most kills was Oliver. He killed 8 people. Episode 22. Darkness on the edge of town. The Dark Archer is at Unidac Industries, and he kills every single person there. All the scientists, all the security guards, everyone. In case you forgot that the Dark Archer was Malcolm Merlyn, he dramatically pulls back his hood to reveal that he is still in fact Malcolm Merlyn. Title screen. In the Arrow Cave, Felicity, Diggle, and Oliver are chatting about the Undertaking. They still have zero clue what this is. And Oliver's like, hey, I think we need to talk to Mother Moira again. But this time, we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Laurel is upstairs in the club, and as Oliver's leaving, she's like, hey, can we talk? Tommy told me that you still have feelings for me. Is that true? Because I still definitely have feelings for you. And Oliver's like, Laurel, we can't be together. We can't. And he leaves her alone to cry. On the island, we learn that Yao Fei ratted out where the plane was in order to avoid fires bombing the entire forest. When everyone is brought back to Fire's camp, Oliver discovers that Alan, the guy from the cave, is now working for Fires. Fires is planning on shooting down a commercial airplane. Detective Lance is on the Unidac Industries murder case. Everything in this lab has been destroyed. They don't know what these people were researching. Nobody is alive who knows what they were researching. And also from across the street, Roy and Thea are like stalking them because Roy's a little freaky little guy. Oliver has been trying to talk to Moira all day, but she keeps brushing him off until finally Oliver is able to like get her to sit down. But suddenly the lights flicker off. Yes, without warning, that type of suddenly. And then they're all captured by the green hood guy. And the hood guy says, Moira Queen, you have failed this city. On the island, Oliver's a confused little boy. He's like, Fires, why are you blowing up a plane? Can you maybe enlighten me before you kill me? And Fires is like, sure, yes, I will do my evil villain monologue. My employer wants to destabilize China's economy. Fires explains that he's going to be shooting down every single plane that's going in and out of China, because that will surely fuck up their economy. He's gonna blame it all on Yao Fei. Fires then shoots Slade in the leg, Shadow in the shoulder, and he punches Oliver in the face. At CNRI, Thea overhears Lance loudly talking about a copycat archer, and she takes this information back to Roy. She tells Roy that the copycat archer is tied to Merlin Global, so the two of them decide it's time for a stakeout, baby! If the other archer is going to Merlin Global, then maybe our guy is gonna go there too. And then when I find him, I can go up to him and I can tell him how much he means to me, and then he'll make me his Robin. Okay, Roy, calm down. The Hood, who is actually Diggle, is questioning Moira. What is the Undertaking? Tell me everything about the Undertaking. He's punching Oliver to make her talk, and she squeals like a little pig. Malcolm Merlyn is planning on leveling the glades with an earthquake machine. She doesn't know where it is. The Hood lets her go, and then she tries to explain to Oliver that she had no choice in this matter, but Oliver will hear none of it. The goons in the Arrow Cave, or the arrows in the Goon Cave? Arrows in my Goon Cave! The goons in the Arrow Cave now know that the other archer is somehow connected to Malcolm Merlyn and the Undertaking, but they still don't know that they are the same person. So instead of going after Malcolm Merlyn directly, their plan is to figure out where the earthquake machine is so they can disable it so he can't level the glades. Okay, great plan. How are we gonna do this? Felicity, are you hacking into the Merlin Global mainframe? And she's like, yes, I'm hacking into the Merlin Global mainframe. And it does appear that Felicity's Smoke Computer Girl Boss is hacking into the Merlin Global mainframe. On the island, Fires calls his employer and explains that the missile launcher is primed and ready. His employer is a woman in red high heels. Felicity can't hack into the Merlin Global mainframe. She says the only way she can get into it is from, like, being on site. And there's no way they can just waltz into the Merlin Global building. It's completely see-through. They'll be caught immediately. And Oliver's like, it's time for a hacking heist, Felicity. We are going to the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global building so that you can hack into the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global mainframe. Now, there's a couple of issues with this. Firstly, the Merlin Global mainframe is located on the 25th floor of the building. 25th floor is only accessible via Malcolm Merlyn's private elevator. So this heist is actually really crazy. I love a good heist. I'm a heist girly, so I will be explaining the entire heist to you. Oliver goes in there, and he has a meeting scheduled with Tommy Merlin on the 24th floor of this building. So he goes up there. Felicity comes into the building. She is dressed as a Big Belly Burger delivery woman. She goes to the security office and delivers Big Belly Burger to the security guards. The security guard who picks it up is John Diggle. He feeds the burger to the other security guard that's there. Burger is poisoned with sleeping pills. So the guy that eats it falls asleep, and now Diggle is alone in the security room, and he's able to monitor all of the cams. Felicity and Oliver get to the 24th floor. They're in the elevator. They stop the elevator and climb on top of it. And they have to, zip line to the 25th floor. Felicity has about 5 minutes where she needs to hack the Merlin Global mainframe and then rendezvous back up so they can get out of that building because the guards are doing a shift change or some shit. Felicity goes to the server room, and then Oliver goes back to his meeting with Tommy. The meeting with Tommy goes about the way you would expect. Tommy calls Oliver a little bitch, and then Oliver's like, but hey, maybe don't call me a little bitch. Diggle goes over the comms and tells Felicity that the security guards are on the move a little bit faster than usual, so she's gotta move. Oliver leaves his meeting with Tommy to try and catch up with Felicity, but on his way back to the 25th floor, he runs into none other than Malcolm Merlin, Man of the Hour. Malcolm takes Oliver back down to the ground floor because Oliver's lying and saying that he has to leave. So instead of going to help Felicity, now Oliver is all the way back at the bottom floor of the building. Who is there but Thea Queen? And he's like, Thea, what are you doing here? And she's like, me and Roy are just kind of looking for the vigilante. He's like, the vigilante is dangerous, Thea. You can't be doing shit like this. Felicity is about to get caught by the security guards, so Diggle acts fast. He goes up there and pretends that Felicity is just one of Merlin Jr.'s bimbos, and then he takes her out of there. Everyone gets out of the Merlin Global building, and it's all good. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows a goddamn thing. At the Queen Mansion, Walter serves Moira some divorce papers, saying that he can't trust her now. And she's really upset about this because that's kind of upsetting. Kelton, the creepy cop hacker, discovers that Felicity Smoke hacked into the Merlin Global mainframe because the cops are also trying to hack into the Merlin Global mainframe, and I guess she left a cyber trail or some shit. So Kelton finds that out, and now Lance knows that Felicity Smoke was hacking into the Merlin Global mainframe. Oliver declares that after he stops the Undertaking, his mission as the vigilante will be fulfilled, and then he can stop everything and just have a normal life. And the prospect of stopping being a vigilante, that's freeing to Oliver. He can have a normal life, and he can be in relationships, and he can go after the girl of his dreams, Laurel Lance. When Oliver was at the meeting with Tommy, he told him that he should give Laurel another chance. It's time for the best scene in the show, and I mean that 100%. All the other scenes that I said were the best scenes in the show, throw them in the trash, because they don't hold a candle to this scene. So Oliver shows up at Laurel's apartment, and he's like, hey, there have been things that have been holding me back, but those things are coming to an end, and now I'm ready to admit that I still have feelings for you, and I want to be with you. And then they kiss, and they go into the bedroom, and they start stripping. You know how it is, right? The window is open. They are visible from the window. Important, because Tommy Merlin is walking down the street with a bouquet of flowers, heading to apologize to Laurel at this very moment. And then while the song Radioactive by Imagine Dragons starts playing in the background, Tommy Merlin looks up, and through Laurel's window, he sees Laurel and Oliver hooking up. The camera zooms in on Tommy Merlin, all dramatic. He looks frazzled and confused while Mr. Dragon sings, radioactive, radioactive. That's peak. That is the peak of television. That is prime time TV. That is what I call a certified radioactive moment. On the island, Oliver has a knife, and he's trying to cut his restraints with this knife. While he's doing that, Yao Fei is held at gunpoint recording a video saying that he is the one who is blowing up these planes. After the video is done recording, fires, shoots, and kills Yao Fei. Oliver confronts Malcolm Merlin, and they have their first boss fight. The hood guy fires an arrow at Malcolm Merlin. Malcolm catches the arrow, Helena Bertinelli style, and then they start fighting. Malcolm kicks his fucking ass. Hood is on the ground, and once he's sufficiently been kicked, Malcolm pulls back the hood and is like, uh-oh. These stats for this episode. The character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 52. The character with the most smart remarks was a 4-way tie between Oliver, Tommy, Walter, and Felicity. They each had 5. And the character with the most kills was Malcolm. He killed 9 people. Episode 23, Sacrifice. Oliver is currently tied up by Malcolm Merlin. Malcolm monologues about his evil plan. Oliver asks Malcolm if he really thinks he's honoring Rebecca by destroying the Glades, and he's like, as sure as you think that you're honoring your father by going after the list. Malcolm says that Oliver cannot beat him. Malcolm is simply stronger, faster, smarter than Oliver, and he has no shot. This undertaking has been planned for years. There's no chance that Oliver could possibly beat him at this point. On the island, Oliver breaks free from his chains, and Shadow breaks free from hers too, but it's too late. They fire the missile at the plane. In the present day, Oliver escapes from Malcolm's little prison, and then Diggle shows up and helps him, because there's a tracker in Oliver's boot. Title screen, Lance has Felicity at the station for questioning, because she is involved with the Hood, and he needs to know who he is. Felicity does not tell Lance who the Hood is, and she denies involvement, and then Lance gets a call from the Hood himself, who's like, hey, we got a big storm coming. Tommy is waiting for Oliver at the club, and he's like, my. So I took your advice. I went to go talk to Laurel, like you asked me to, like you said I should. Imagine my surprise when I arrive there, and I see that you have beaten me to it, my guy. I trusted you. And then Oliver's like, hey, Tommy, your dad's evil. Your dad is an evil archer. And then Tommy's like, okay, what's next? Was my mother the tooth fairy too? Like, you don't get to come in here and tell me all this random bullshit. Oliver's like, listen, Tommy, I didn't find out the truth about my father until it was too late. But you've always known deep down that your father was a fucking freak, and now you have confirmation. You can stop this undertaking. And then Tommy says, Oliver, I wish you had died on that island. On the island, Slade reprograms the missile to do a U-turn and come back and blow up the camp. Lance goes to Frank Pike, and he's like, hey, I got some intel from the vigilante that Malcolm Merlin is planning on blowing up the Glades with an earthquake machine. And Frank Pike is like, what the fuck kind of drugs are you on? You have been corresponding with the vigilante? You're suspended, my guy. Moira gets a call from Malcolm, and he's like, Moira, the undertaking is being moved up. It's happening tonight. And then Oliver's like, hey, mother, someone in this family needs to do something. The right kind of something, if you know what I mean. Oliver tells Laurel to stay out of the Glades tonight. Tommy approaches Malcolm in the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global building, and he says, hey, Dad, Oliver told me a lot of shit about you. Care to comment? And he's like, yeah, it's all true. Oliver's right. Malcolm plays the voicemail of Rebecca dying to Tommy, and now Tommy is scared. Tommy is shitting in his pants. Team Arrow discovers that the earthquake machine must be in the subway lines somewhere under the Glades, and Oliver thinks he knows exactly where it is. Suddenly, and without warning, might I add, Felicity Smoke tells Oliver to turn on the news, and Moira Dearden Queen is giving a press release to the people, telling all of the citizens of the Glades that they need to evacuate because there is an undertaking, there is an earthquaking, there is a conspiracying, and they need to leave. And then Moira Queen is immediately arrested. Malcolm shows Tommy his Dark Archer costume, and then Tommy pulls a gun on Malcolm, but he does not shoot him, and Malcolm knocks Tommy out. Oliver wants to go fight Malcolm, but Diggle won't let him go without backup. Felicity's like, well, someone's gotta go disarm the earthquake machines, might as well be me. And they're like, no, Felicity, stay the fuck away from the earthquake machine, you are too precious to die. So they call Detective Lance, and then he is going to go disarm the earthquake machines. The Glades are in shambles, chaos. Lance is running in, Roy is trying to run out, Thea is also running in looking for Roy, it's crazy. On the island, the missile has hit Fire's camp. Oliver survives, and he goes looking through the wreckage for everyone else. Slade and Shadow are both okay, but Fires has Shadow at gunpoint, and he's like, Oliver, you can either kill me, or you can not kill me, and you can work for me, and then I can get you off this island. Oliver kills Fires, saving Shadow, but damning all of them to be stuck on the island for at least another season. Oliver and Diggle arrive at the nasty-ass glass Merlin Global building, and they find Tommy unconscious, and he's not unconscious, he's slightly conscious, I guess, and he's like, my dad's a fucking bitch. And Malcolm Merlin is waiting for Oliver inside his panic room, dressed in his costume, posing, waiting for them to see him. It's fucking crazy. Fight ensues. Lance finds this fuck-ass earthquake machine, and it's crazy. It looks like alien technology. It's got LED lights all over it. It's glowing colors, and he's like, wow. Wow, we're so cooked. Thea and Roy are escaping the glades together. Lance cuts a wire on the earthquake machine and it speeds up the timer. Malcolm and Oliver are fighting, boss battle. It leads them to the roof. Diggle is down, he's wounded, but he's crawling up the stairs trying to help Oliver out. So they're on the roof, fight, battle, arrow, punch, you know how it is. Malcolm has Oliver in a chokehold. Oliver grabs an arrow from the ground, stabs it through his own shoulder into Malcolm's shoulder, and then Malcolm falls over and is like pretty much dead, right? Lance successfully disarms the earthquake machine. Oh, psych, there's a second one. There's another earthquake machine. There were two this whole damn time. Oliver, Diggle, and Malcolm watch from the rooftop as the glades start to crumble. Laurel did not heed Oliver's warning and stay out of the glades tonight. She went into the glades to see NRI. The building starts toppling on top of her. There's a fire, it's crazy chaotic. Tommy is there. He runs into the building to try and save Laurel. She gets out of the building, but Tommy does not get out of the building. He gets stuck under a beam. The hood guy shows up, runs into the building, and he's like, Tommy, fuck, you've been impaled. Tommy asks Oliver if he killed his father. Oliver says he did not, even though it's pretty clear that he did kill Malcolm. He seemed pretty dead when we last looked at him, you know. And then Tommy dies, and Oliver sobs, saying that it should have been him. And that's the end of season 1, my guys. Okay, stats for this episode. The character with the most dramatic pauses was Oliver. He had 62. The character with the most smart remarks was Tommy. He had 5. And the character with the most kills was Oliver. He killed 4 people. Malcolm killed 3 people. And Slade also killed 3 people. So you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed this recap of Arrow Season 1. Now it's time for the not-so-secret awards ceremony. Tommy Merlin gets the Favorite Character Award, and Moira Queen gets the Girl Boss Award for Season 1. I will say that it was very hard for me to choose between Malcolm and Tommy as my favorite character in Season 1, but I ultimately went with Tommy because he's not exactly coming back, now is he? So you could jump right into the Season 2 recaps from here, but for the sake of continuity, I do need to explain a couple of things. First, the Season 2 videos are split into hour-long chunks because I did not have the capacity to edit a 5-hour-long video at the time. Second, Season 2 was the first season where I started really understanding how to lay out a murder board. So, it's fucking fire, but it's also, like, primitive. It's primitive fire, you know? Back when I recorded those videos, I did not have access to the Crayola Colors of the World crayons, so every single one of my drawings is pasty white, ghost-like, and I will not purchase the Crayola Colors of the World crayons until Flash Season 2, so it's gonna be a while. Also, speaking of the drawings, my current art style is an improvement from what you're gonna see in the Season 2 recaps, okay? The Count, jump scare. The picture of Sarah that I drew, jump scare. D.A. Spencer, I'm sorry. Also, I screamed like bloody murder into that microphone. There are significantly less editing mistakes in the Season 2 videos than there were in the Season 1 one, which is why I redid this video. So I'm gonna leave Season 2 as it is for right now. Maybe one day I'll go back and re-edit them into one longer video and cut out all the fat. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Pat yourself on the back. It's like a reward. To anyone who found my videos back before, when they were really, really shitty, like they're still shitty, but like when they were shittier, thank you so much for subscribing and choosing to join me on this journey because, oh my lord, I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't really know what I'm doing. I appreciate it, and this is fun for me. Like, this is my little hobby. I'm not making any money off of this. I'm doing this because I love these shows. I love to yap. Yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. And always remember that you, yes you, are my best bestie, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!